everyone, and welcome to day two of
Hello.
the International Women's Day Caribbean Tech Summit. My name is Katie Francis, and I'm here with my wonderful co host for today, Anushka. Hi, Anushka.
Hi, Kadia. How are you? So nice to be here.
It's so nice to be here with you as well. How have you been? How are you enjoying the summit so far?
Well, to tell you the truth, yesterday I was so, it was like we already know certain things and we are experiencing it, but hearing it
Yes.
from other speakers and also getting to know how their journey went was so refreshing. And I
Yes.
went to bed with a very good feeling, and I was so looking forward to today, and I can't wait to learn more.
Awesome, awesome, awesome. So we have a really good lineup of speakers today. Anushka, what are we focusing on today in terms of the topic for day two? What's the topic for day two?
Well, for today, we're talking about climate action, sustainability, and technology.
Mhm.
And, with everything happening around us with regards to climate change and all the flooding and all that,
Mhm.
climate change is real. So I'm looking forward to how digital inclusion and digital transformation can contribute towards preserving our planet. So those are the topics today. And if we look at the speakers list, we know that there are many people who are already very active in this front.
Sorry, what was that last part, Anushka?
There are a lot of people already active on this field.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. And how about you? So you get a chance to look at the speakers list?
Yes, I'm seeing the speakers list, and while I'm excited about everybody that's coming up, my lane, I tend to kind of stay in my lane, and my lane is technology, and so of late I've been really digging into AI and talking about AI and how we can use AI to find solutions for some of the perennial problems that we're experiencing, especially because I'm from Jamaica, so as a small island, how can we use technology to solve some of those perennial problems? So, we're talking about climate change today. We know that we're suffering, or we're going to bear the brunt of a climate change crisis. We're already bearing the brunt of a climate change crisis, and so how can we use technology to stave that off, or to change the tides, so we have a better chance of coming through this on the other side. But I'm also wanting to talk about, or hear Dr. Letitia Addison and Kevin Ramjaram talk about AI solutions for the growth and resilience, talking about dialogue and data challenge. I am That's what I'm into these days. So my nerdy sense, like my spidey sense, kind of switched on when I saw that that was going to be a conversation we're going to have today. But I'd also like to hear conversations about what are some of the technological solutions to some of these climate problems that we are having. I think that would be great.
Yeah, I think we have done an amazing job with the speakers lineup and the
Yeah.
topics and all, and also the roundtable of today, right? I have heard Kadeen speaking last year, but also ever since I got to know her, I have heard her speaking on many other platforms,
Mhm.
and I think she brings a good awareness. She's very good in raising awareness about things. So I'm looking forward to today's round table as well. And
Yeah.
the theme is progress and not perfection. So we're all progressing towards our goals, and that's important. So I'm
Right.
really
Taking
looking
that
forward to
first
that.
step. Yeah.
Yeah.
Taking that first step and not waiting until you have all the solutions in place before you take that first step, because in some instances we're at critical points. We don't have the luxury of waiting, and so we have to get going. And so I really love the topic, or the I like the theme for this year's conference. But before we get into it, just quickly want to talk about women tech makers, because they are the team behind this year's Tech Summit. So we're going to play a quick little video for you to give you some more information about who they are, and then we'll be right back. And when we come back, Anushka, I think we should go over to our audience to find out how they've been enjoying the session so far and what they're looking forward to for today. So, guys, we're going to be right back. All right. So we are back, guys. And I see some persons over here. I see Sarah. I see Gregory. Hi, guys. Welcome to day two. How many of you were here yesterday? How many of you were tuned into the sessions yesterday? I saw some familiar faces. I saw a couple persons from Jamaica, and I saw my good brethren over there in Trinidad, Karen Rose. So it was really good to see some familiar faces yesterday. And we're waiting on our first speaker to join us. But in the meantime, I want to find out from you guys. Sarah said it really resonated with her. What resonated with you the most, Sarah? What has resonated with you the most so far in the summit? And I'm looking through the lineup of speakers, Anushka, and I'm also
Yeah.
seeing some other familiar faces like Janika John. Janika John is one of the leads in the Caribbean Women Summit group. I don't know if you're a part of that group, Anushka.
Yes, I am part of the group, and yeah,
Right.
and it's not just enjoyable, but it's also knowledgeable to be part of this group. You learn so much from each other. And I
Yeah.
know that last year I was looking for some software developers, front end developers, and I got it through Janika.
Mhm.
So she is an important resource in finding resources. So, she has this group of, or this team of creatives, and then whenever I need, extra capacity, I can reach out to her. And yesterday we had also the talk of Camille. That's what Sarah just mentioned.
Mhm.
And I saw many people in the chat acknowledging how that resonated with them, and how everyone also has experienced to some extent the misogyny that she was speaking about,
Yeah.
but also having more females in the boardroom. And as a founder of a group of companies myself, I'm often the only female in most of the boardrooms, and also in the Suriname Trade and Industry Association. I'm the youngest and the female
Mhm.
person, the only female person, and it's kind of lonely, but
Yeah.
it also has its good, let's say the good side, because feminism is not about the gender, it's about how someone thinks. So there are also male colleagues who are supportive of women, and they keep an eye out and they will support you, and I have that in my network. So it's
Mhm.
just not just limited to my dad and my colleagues and business partners, but other males who are also in the boardroom and in the bigger associations. They support women in a good way, and I think that's one of the things that we should focus on. Yes, there is a lot of negativity, there is a lot of holding back and jealousy, but you also have that in other fields, and males or men are also victims of competition and not being acknowledged for their work. So let's focus on growing ourselves. I think that was a key message that I took from Camille's
Yeah.
presentation. But yeah, yesterday was also good, because we heard Maria telling us of how this all came together while she was doing the interview with Samya. So that was something to, yeah. I always look up to people who, can bring together a whole network of people,
Mhm.
because that's not how we are all separately doing our own thing. Now we're all coming together. That's also what I like about the women in tech, and that's how I met you. And
Yes. Yes. I unfortunately I missed Camille's talk yesterday, but I see where Sarah especially saying that it really resonated with her, especially the part about getting called out for being emotional in spite of you know presenting logical arguments, and presenting your point, but being reduced to just being an emotional person just because you're a woman, and that's how you're being viewed. Now, to be honest with you, I've not necessarily experienced that because I don't work for people. Right. I work by myself. I am the head cook and bottle washer over at Digital Jamaica and DDA. So and that was intentional on my part, because I whilst I'm not experienced that specifically, I've experienced working in Jamaican businesses where the head was a male, and it wasn't necessarily, maybe it was misogyny, I don't know, but it was more along the lines of, oh well, they're just ladies and they're just having lady problems, so there was no addressing the issue that came up because they're women. Well, I guess it is misogyny, actually. They're women and that's just how women are, so I'm not going to address the issue because it doesn't rise to the level of my involvement, that kind of thing. And I understand how frustrating that could be, because there were genuine issues that he needed to address as the boss, and a lot of things left unsaid, and uh it created a toxic atmosphere in the
Wow.
workplace. And that is why I was like, okay, I clearly I cannot work for people because I am. And then, as somebody who is an introvert, I am not go out and meet people and friendly and chatty. I'm not that kind of person. So it was, even I think, doubly difficult for me in a situation like that. So I was like, clearly I need to stay home and work for myself. And so that's kind of, that was kind of the launching pad for me to make the decision to go solo. But yeah, that I've heard women talk about this a lot. We in Jamaica, we do have a lot of women in top positions, and sometimes the misogyny is coming from that space as well. It's not necessarily just coming from the men, but sometimes the women perpetuate a certain kind of misogyny as well, because they're having their own struggles of, I'm a woman and I'm in the position of power, but I am still beholden to maybe a boss that's above me, or the owner of the company or something, or I have to put on a persona where I am tough and I'm strong, and and this aggressive, I don't want to call it male energy because I hate that terminology, but this aggressive, have to keep you in your place kind of controlling kind of style of leadership that is reminiscent of how a man in that kind of position would behave. And so you find that that happens, and it can create, again, toxic atmosphere, um even if it's just the perception, because sometimes it's just your perception, right, that plays into it a lot. But I've also been in that kind of space as well, where it wasn't a man, it was a woman who
Yeah.
had these very strange sentiments about how women should operate in a work environment. For instance, we as women, we all know that at a certain time of the month we got problems. Okay, we have problems. And so you would think that as the boss, who's also a woman, she would understand. eh, no, she didn't. And so that's one way how, as women, sometimes we perpetuate the same kind of harmful, um
Yeah. Like feminism.
misogynistic. Yeah, we
Yeah.
can do that as well, because we have been conditioned to think that this is how we control, or this is how we lead, and this is what leadership looks like. And so I see where that happens as well. What do you think about that, though, Anishka?
I completely agree with you, Kadia. Like feminism, empathy is not gender bound. You have men and women who are very empathic, empathic, Is that the English word?
Empathetic.
Empathetic, the first word, right? I thought it was empathetic, yeah. In
Mhm.
Dutch, it will be empathic, so that's why. And then in you also have men and women who are completely cold and who are, it's not because you're from a certain gender that you will be by design or by default you will have certain values or certain emotions, etc. So that's why I loved Camille's presentation so much, because she addressed the misogyny, but she also gave insights in how she is just going beyond that and how other males have helped her grow. And
Mhm.
I'm looking at today's technology ecosystem, the workspace. And what I see there is that more and more women are entering that space. And yes, it will take some time, but I feel that we are at the forefront of more women in the leading roles.
Yeah.
And that's why I also loved in yesterday's presentation, and I see Sarah mentioning Ariela's name again, also, where she's saying that creating a career out of what she loves to do. And that
Hmm.
is also in Kiran Rose, his presentation.
Yes.
While many people told him, that his podcast or his blog, it was his blog, won't be successful, and the same goes for um, Ariel as well. He still went through, and he went for his dream. He believed that e-commerce was something that nobody was focusing on, because so many people were asking him, hey, how are you doing this, how are you doing that, like
Mhm.
how do you get more visitors to your website, how do you make it possible that someone comes on your website and they can order something. And that's when he started to promote and talk more about e-commerce.
Yeah.
And I think everyone that spoke yesterday, if there is something, that you can say it's in all the presentations, then it's about following your dreams and staying focused and committed. Staying
Yeah.
committed to what you believe is good, and believing that one day you will get there. And no one spot was linear. I also heard Bianca Welch. She's also from Jamaica. I don't know if you know
Yes.
her.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Bianca also spoke about her journey as well. And, I see there is a certain way in how we used to do things, but now more and more of those, let's say, status quos and in Dutch we would say belemmerende overtuigingen. It means limiting thoughts, like things we have told ourselves,
Hmm.
which are not there for, they are not there by design, but it's something between our ears. We think that it has always been this way, so that's how we should do it. And if I change it, I will get in trouble. But
Hmm.
then you also have the people like me who are not so, well, we are used to getting into trouble, so
You're
it's
the
not, it's okay.
disruptors. Yeah. Yeah.
It's okay. We can, get into trouble again.
Yeah, in Jamaica we call it mashing up the dolly house, right? When you go in and you disrupt, and because sometimes it's absolutely necessary for you to be able to go in and disrupt. Even the conversation with Ariel Duquesne when she was talking about, doing what you love, creating a career out of the things you love, that too I think is disruptive. That's a disruptive step because growing up in the Caribbean, in Jamaica, we're taught from our early age that this is what a career looks like. You get up, you have a 9 to 5, you go to somebody else's job, you sit down, you do this, so you're either a doctor, a lawyer, a policeman. These are the respectable careers that you must get into. And to this day we're still kind of in that mindset where you have to be in one of these traditional areas to have some kind of career that is seen or perceived as meaningful. And it took me, for instance, it took me a while to kind of break out of that mindset as a creative person. It took me a while to break out of that mindset because you've heard about the starving artist, right? And so you're always thinking that there's not a lot of money to be made in the creative spaces, but I'm here as proof that that's not the case, and I know several other Jamaicans in the creative space who's here to say that's not the case. And technology has allowed me and others to be that kind of disruptive, where you're deciding that these are my skills, these are my talents, and because of technology, I can then put something together and kind of create a lucrative career for myself, where I can eat food and pay my bills, right? And still have money left to have a particular kind of life that I have crafted for myself. And so I still think that I think that that is a disruptive path to take when you're deciding that, one, you're going to work for yourself, two, you're going to based on your own levels of motivation and drive, you're going to carve out a space or a niche for yourself where you can earn from it. I think that's an amazing thing, and I think technology is really the enabler behind myself and you're being able to do that, Anushka.
Yeah, I see that the things you just mentioned about
Yeah.
living in the Caribbean,
Mm.
that's true for everyone that I know in the Caribbean. It's true for Suriname, it's true for Guyana, Jamaica, Trinidad, Barbados, my friends in Bahamas, in the Bahamas, in Martinique. They all share this same ecosystem, the same problems and the same challenges. But then again, if you look at my companies, they were all driven by there is this problem, and I know that I have the skills, I have the passion, and to change it into a business and make it profitable.
Yeah.
And I feel that you have the same drive and the same passion. So I think that's what makes us, you know, people who are progressing every day, little
Yeah.
by little, a step by step, we will get there. And what I love the most is that we open doors for other people, other
Yes.
persons who can come through. And I cannot tell you how many persons have reached out to me and said, "Hey, you mentioned that in a talk, and I started it, and look how success." And I haven't done anything else than just talking about my own journey and experiences. And that's why I like that you're sharing this story with us, because you don't know who hears it, and then they say like, "Hey, but that's the same for me, and I if she can do it, I can do it too. Let's go."
Exactly.
And that's what
Right.
I love today. But yeah, let's
And
look at
and
our speakers.
representation matters a lot in that way as well. If you see somebody that looks like you, that has the same kind of experience and background, coming from the same place you're coming from,
Yeah.
seeing them being able to excel, whether in technological or other spaces, is always inspirational, because think about where our inspiration used to come from. We used to watch it on TV. We used to see the people on TV. You have persons who are marine biologists, or persons who are expert in a very niche thing, like somebody who's an expert in, let's say, dinosaur fossil fuels of a particular Paleolithic era or something, right? And you're going, wow, it's a luxury to be able to be that specific in a career goal and make money from it, while we in the Caribbean, we have been very limited in scope in terms of what we think we can do and what we tell our children that they can do. And again,
Yeah.
I'm glad technology is allowing us to break out of these boxes and molds and do way more than we thought we ever could do in the first place. And if you want to be the dinosaur man, right?
A
You
woman.
can go ahead and be the dinosaur man. It is
A
very
woman.
possible for you. And I love that message, and I love seeing people break out and do that thing. But coming up, our speaker coming up is Dr. Chris Rampersad. And Dr. Chris Rampersad is going to talk to us about taking the lead and adapting education and intercultural understanding for the post-pandemic planet. Now that sounds like a lot. That sounds like a lot, but really the pandemic has kind of thrown a lot of us off balance, and as individuals, but also as countries, especially small
Yeah.
island states, a lot of things got thrown out of whack for us during the pandemic, right? And so Dr. Rambo said he's gonna talk to us about, you know, how you adapt your education and in a post-pandemic era, because that's what we're talking about now, right? This major global catastrophe that happened, and how we are going to recover and adapt post. Well, are we post though? Are we really post?
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know if you can say that we're post. I mean, COVID is becoming now something that we are incorporating into our lives, and it's
Yeah,
there. Let's be safe, but also let's not go back to what we had, but become better. Create a
that's
better living situation for each and working situation. Not going back to what we used to be doing in a traditional way, but use the lessons learned and create better facilities for our people, better lives.
that's for sure. Because in an island like Jamaica, and guys, I always talk about Jamaica because again, I like to stay in my lane. Um, I can tell you for Jamaica, the pandemic kicked a lot of us in the teeth. A lot of us realized our bank account was not as strong as we thought it was. That's one. And then on top of that, it kind of jump started the whole technological you find Jamaicans talking about technological revolution like that happened a long time ago, but for us it's really a kind of revolution because we're not a digital culture, we're not a tech culture. And so because we have been forced into that space because of COVID in order to keep our economy up and running, we've had to do a lot of adapting. All that has to go on. What I'm hoping happens, and what I'm hoping Dr. Rampasad kind of touches on, is how we can maintain the gains that we've actually gotten because of the pandemic. How do we maintain and even build on some of the gains that some of the strides technologically that we have made, how we can build on that, how we can incorporate that, and how we can use that to push us in terms of growth. So I'm hoping
Yes.
that's one thing we hear about today. Anushka, how was it where you are in terms of the impact COVID had over there?
Well, I think we had most of the things that you just mentioned here in Suriname. We had the lockdowns, we had all these measurements that were taken, but also we saw that we are not as resilient as we think we are,
Yeah.
and that we saw people. We thought that Suriname, we have a rather young generation, so our country has a lot of young people, more young people than the older generations, but still pivoting through it was difficult, like adapting to the new measurements and the new situation
Yes.
was a bit difficult. We saw teachers and our educational system shrinking to a level where we thought, oh my god, we had to build up everything again. So that's why I was saying earlier, I don't hope we go back to what was there. I hope we create a new dimension, a new way of doing business, of educating our people, and a new way of living our lives where quality of life is the main purpose for everyone. But
Awesome.
let's not keep
Yeah, let's
Dr.
not take up
Chris
any more time because
Ramprasad waiting for
Dr.
longer.
Rampasad is here. But before, can we bring her on?
I will try to bring her on now. Let's see if that goes. There she is. Let's
Hi,
highlight
Dr.
her.
Rampasad.
Hi, good day. I was just listening to your very, very dynamic discussion, and I see you've had my task all mapped out for me as well. You know,
Guys, welcome Dr. Chris Rampasad to day 2 of the summit. And before, no, listen, guys, listen. Dr. Rampasad sent us her short bio, and her short bio is very extensive because Dr. Rampasad is extremely accomplished, okay? And so I'm going to take my time and kind of read through because I want you guys to get an essence of who Dr. Rampasad is. So she's an independent cultural and literary sustainable development educator. She's also a multimedia producer, publisher, journalist, facilitator, lecturer, trainer, as well as a consultant. And she's very degreed, okay? She has a BA first class honors and a PhD from the University of the West Indies, Trinidad and Tobago. She also holds a diploma in mass communication from the Jawaharlal Nehru University, and I know I screwed that name up.
No,
My
you got it
apologies.
right. You got it right.
I did. Yes.
Jawaharlal
Okay.
Nehru, yes, Jawaharlal
There you
Nehru.
go. Good. I've been watching a lot of Bollywood on Netflix, so great, paying off. Okay. She's a Commonwealth Professional Fellowship from the Association of Commonwealth Universities. Guys, I could spend the next hour reading through her professional qualifications, but I wanted to touch on the fact that Dr. Rampersad has done extensive work across the connected Americas, especially in the Caribbean and Latin America region, in raising appreciation for cultural heritage. My God, one of the areas that I'm very passionate about, as well as diversity and inclusion. All three Caribbean countries recently admitted to the UNESCO World Heritage List benefited from her work, and she was also a pioneer of the Commonwealth Women Agents of Change initiative, leading the Caribbean agenda for change and educating women in political and other leadership spheres. She's a UNESCO trained facilitator for its culture conventions, including World Heritage, Intangible Cultural Heritage, Diversity of Cultural Expression, Intercultural Dialogue, Creative Cities, Silk and Indentured Immigrant Roots, and has extensive work experience in multi-stakeholder engagement and community empowerment. And this is why this is important. I don't know if you guys recently heard, Dr. Ampersad, I don't know if you recently heard that a non-Jamaican group won the Grammy Awards in the reggae category. I don't know.
And do you know I worked with the Jamaicans in getting reggae on the UNESCO Intangible Cultural Heritage List. I am very, very proud of that. We did some
There you go.
work in Jamaica, including as well the getting the Blue and John Crow Mountains on the World Heritage List. So
Yes, I remember
worked
that.
with communities. Yes, so we did some this has been like a 10-year process. You know.
Yes, I remember that.
It's
Yeah.
a lot of work that goes into it. And we were able to clinch that in the end and get past a lot of the hitches that exist within our communities.
For sure. So
Wow.
recently, guys, a non-Jamaican group of some very white people won the Grammy Awards in the reggae category, and it caused a major uproar in the music scene in Jamaica. And reading through Dr. Ampersad's bio talking about intangible cultural heritage and diversity of cultural expression, it just brought me back to that, and hoping Dr. Rampersad could, well, she's going to tell us about how we can hold on to that, especially in this post-pandemic era. But just to wrap up, in terms of her who Dr. Rampersad is, Dr. Rampersad has worked across the UN, OAS, Commonwealth, and Caribbean communities in helping communities and other stakeholders access international instruments such as the UNESCO Cultural Conventions, and in engaging civil society in inclusion, respect for diversity, rights, freedoms, and governance processes through understanding how to use traditional and access conventional media, as well as in advancing empowerment of rural and marginalized communities, very important, youth and women, and increasing their participation in political, social, and economic processes. She has also authored 3 books. And just a second, it's 4 books.
Yeah, I also have a.
You're working on your 4th.
I also no. I finished. It's actually a children's story about the environment. So it's
Wow.
and
So-
I would be treated with it in my presentation as well.
Awesome.
Okay.
So finding a place to the political glass ceiling, landscapes of fiction from Trinidad and Tobago. She has also authored numerous articles, done a whole heap of presentations and stuff. And guys, Again, I could go on and on because Dr. Rampersad is extremely distinguished. But without
Sure.
further ado, I'm gonna hand over to Dr. Rampersad.
Okay, I provided you all with a video. Maybe as a matter of introduction, I can say that I have been, I think, one of the people who have straddled the spheres of media and academia throughout my career. And which, of course, maybe I think has been preparing me for the post pandemic planet. And I see you've been questioning whether you think we are in the post pandemic planet or not. I think, ready or not, we're going to be there. In fact, I started to think about that since 2021. And what you see unfolding in this video as some of the work I've been doing during the pandemic lockdown and during this time where I was also taking care of my elderly mother who actually died in December. So
Oh,
I had a very busy pandemic period, in fact, and very creative as well. So that's what follows in the video, and we could have a talk as we go along.
oh, we're so sorry about your loss, and we hope that wherever your mother is, she is good now. And can I start the video?
Yes, certainly.
All right, so let's go ahead and see how this goes. Okay, trying to.
You would let me, has it loaded, or do you want me to talk a little more while we wait for it to load? There we go. Can turn up the volume, yes? So, as you know, there's been a lot of noise, not I call noise, a lot of discussion about the technical elements of what the pandemic has done for the education system. But my focus here is really on who's minding the creative educational content. There has not been much talk about that. And that despite the fact that it has been one of the major deficiencies within the education system. And when I talk about creative educational content, I also mean culturally relevant content. As I said, education and media, all my life I've been fighting, in fact, to bridge these two, and the video would unfold what that struggle entailed. So we have had, it has been identified by UNESCO that there's very little educational material and expertise to prepare creative educational content, that when we were hit by the pandemic, and of course that caused the lockdown on schools and the dependence on digital media to provide electronic education. And when I talk about electronic education, I'm talking about a relevant, culturally relevant material. As you know, we were already in a negative in that respect, even before the pandemic. So I've been creating a new model for education that speak to our realities and how our children learn. And this includes oral ways of receiving not just text-based education, which I think multimedia allows us an enormous opportunity now to capitalize on. So I launched last year at the Commonwealth Scholars Commission Conference a new literary genre called the multimedia microepic, which adapts the classical epic form for new social media short form. That is one of the gaps in education I see this filling because they, as I said, academia has been struggling to come to terms with this new demand and use of new media. But I see, of course, multimedia is a powerful vehicle for intercultural education and to empower and to reshape the world that as we want it to be. So two components of this multimedia microepic was a biopic called One Night to Bloom and the other Mother Continent, and it's been received by a number of film festivals around the world of various denominations. So here it goes. You can turn the volume on now. Or you're not, your volume is off, I think. You'll probably need to restart it. Are you there? The volume is down, I think. Yeah, can you turn the volume? You probably need to restart it because you missed a bit of the video. Is your volume on? I'm not hearing it. Are you hearing the volume on your end? Yeah, so while you get that sorted out, I'll tell you a little bit about this new literary genre. As I said, academia has been struggling, as you saw in that UNESCO report, in terms of creating material. And one of the, I chose the epic because, of course, everybody thinks it's this grand and lofty form. And it probably new, social media short form would not be able to accommodate something like an epic. So when I was invited to speak at the Commonwealth Scholars Commission, I was asked to present a topic which I did. It was actually supposed to present on globalization in reverse, which would have been addressing some of the impacts of the pandemic. But when they saw the biopic, because I was also asked to prepare a 5-minute video on myself, on my work, and they were so impressed that they asked me to look on the main presentation, and we'll pitch the multimedia micro epic as a main thing. So shall we start over now? The video, not just the video, just the video part where we were. Are you hearing still? No? Let me see if I could play it on mine end so you will hear the video while you run the video. Maybe that would work. So tell me when you're ready I could start it on my end. Can we just start? Can you just restart it to the video element and I would play the audio on this end? Okay, tell me when you're ready, and you would run the video from and
So we're experiencing some problems with the video.
well, what I
And
was suggesting is that if you start it on your end, I can play the audio from here, so maybe you would be able to pick that up.
okay, let's see. I will
So
go
so
ahead.
it's to the point where you were just about to start the video, the first.
I have just unplugged my headphones, so maybe that's something that can help.
Yeah.
All right. All right, guys, we're having a little bit of a technical issue
Okay.
with the video. Dr. Ampersand, I'm so sorry. We're going to try one more time. One
Because
more time.
if you, as I said, if you click from the point where the you saw that multimedia starts, I can click on the audio here. I'm not sure if people would be able to hear from that. My mic is unmuted, so it should be able to hear the audio from my computer while that
Okay,
is
so you
running.
want us to try to sync the audio?
Yeah. So at the point, let me give you the time at 3:08. At 3:08.
The superpower is thinking. Someone asked me to complete the sentence.
All right, let
You get that
me
at point. Let me see. 3:08.
at 3:08.
Yes, you got that. So
Wait.
I'll start and you'll start at the same time.
Well, I can start from 3:08 right now. Are you ready?
Yes, I'm ready.
Okay,
Let's.
let's go.
Got it. Go.
Should there be sound here?
Just now. Whoops. Okay, we're going again.
Okay,
308. 308.
hold on. Just 1 minute. .308. Are you ready to go?
Yes, let's try now.
Okay, we sync after 3. 1, 2, 3, go.
Cool.
Is it on?
Oh, yes. I'm not sure why YouTube is giving a problem now, because it's just playing fine. Just hang on a second.
You want me to see if my volume, if my audio would work?
Yeah, I think you should
Okay.
try.
Okay. Because my audio is working. So let me start from 308 and see if that works. Just a second. One more time, guys. We're so sorry.
If you're at 308, I'm ready to try again.
Okay. Are we on the right track, Dr. Rampasan?
No, you know. Right, now we are.
The superpower is thinking. Someone asked me to complete the sentence I wanted to be, and I am, I return wholeheartedly. The secret tools, research. The weapons of mass destruction, multimedia, words, images, music, visual mapping, graphics, sound, video. From the cross currents of mass culture, mass communications, mass education, she traverses 5 continents and 3 realms. Her quest, find a place where knowledge lives, even if we all cease to be. She'll use the important dark forces who have a warrant out for her arrest on the crime of reading. Mystical beings of science and science with potent powers to heal, befriend her. Confronted walls of prejudice and pollution, racism, betrayal, and violence. Graphic, sound, video. From the cross currents of mass culture, mass communications, mass education, she traverses 5 continents and 3 realms. Her quest, find a place where knowledge lives, even if we all cease to be. She'll use the important dark forces who have a warrant out for her arrest on the crime of reading. Mystical beings of science and science with potent powers to heal, befriend her. Confronted walls of prejudice and pollution, racism, betrayal and violence, turmoil and terrorism, she defies the poet's claims. No man is an island, but woman is. Spokesperson for woman, the empowered kind. I land in the wars of the world. Choose us or them, heart or mind. She meanders secretive and treacherous contortions in her heart's arteries to unearth historical distortions. Inspired by past dream stories, With Ma as her muse, she sets out on a perilous journey in search of the magical flower with the power to restore sight to the world, and invents a new creative genre, the multimedia micro-epic of the anthropophy. Split into continents, cut up in parts, divided in vain, says the laureate, long before the medical probes find the evidence. My umbilical motherland, one is in the east and one is in the west, buried, hidden, invisible, unknown, unseen. Asymptomatic, separated from mother continent, I am an island, the independent kind, an Amazonian, descendant of the first Americaners, ancestors of ancient Pacific Atlantic crisscrossings of discovery long before Kon-Tiki. I have never been able to contemplate the history of my islands as the isolated story of independence or colonization or even migration, not the recent migrations that brought most of us here, or even the prehistoric ones. I have pored over maps and drew the invisible lines that connect South American rivers and topography with our islands, and looked at biological studies of our flora and fauna, and geological and anthropological and archaeological reports. And even without that, knowing their primordial linkages, which we have been taught to forget. To move beyond the self-derision and self-deprecation and discover our ugliness too, and our beauty too, as I trace the imaginary line that connects us, island and continent. This is a liturgy, a praise song to all who came before, and on whose enormous shoulders we stand, hand at work. I'm footloose and free, just follow me, and you will see, you and me, it's so good to be footloose and free. Wander around through countries, inside and town. Come with me. Come and see what's the heart still deeper. The world is my playground. The wind is my song. I believe in truth, love and freedom. I'm here all but still with none for long.
Okay, this other video piece is a process.
How do we teach next generations of world leaders that the pleasures of today can be the planet's pain tomorrow? How do we grow a new generation of environmentally conscious global citizens to make wise, sustainable developmental choices and decisions for the future, to communicate their common concerns and build collaborations as global citizens conscious about caring for the planet? My name is Chris Ramsay, and I am from the island of Trinidad.
Let's talk now with Dr. Chris Ramsay, who apart from being an award-winning journalist, she's also an educator and an author. Her latest offering, it's all part of a series called The Adventures of Money Butterfly and Danny Dragonfly. The venture book aims to encourage readers to tap into their creative side with the help of music.
To create a cadre of educational materials
And when I talk about education, I'm not only talking about 4 schools, because I see education as a total process from parenting, from childhood, all the way into adulthood. Aligned to all of that to interactive sessions that we can do some teacher training. I've worked throughout the system, trying from policy level all the way through.
Giving up on that? Is that why you're writing books now?
Not
that
at
you
all.
realize a waste of time, all that policy thing?
I won't want to say it's a waste of time. I'm trying a new approach. Almost impossible to reform the current processes and children have a way of transforming that. And children have a way of changing parents. I create story science as a simple answer to all who say science is too hard to teach the preschoolers. I came as mentor to this childhood center for this science story project with National Geographic. You like songs and stories? But this story has songs in it. Dum, 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 dum. Then we recycled plastics, planted a tree, a leaf, and a seed. And it was from plastics they rebuilt the rewards for my good deeds. Usually, it is not easy after we teach to be able to identify if the message reached. These young learners immediately put their knowledge to the test. It is in playing with their plastic toys that I saw how my lesson to recycle worked best. Combining their memory of my first lesson of the rainbow butterfly harmony and the second when story science combines song and activity with art, the message you see going straight to their heart.
It's Filipino. I'm gonna make that tree for you. I'm gonna make that tree. I wanna have green leaves. I want to build a rainbow tree. A rainbow tree like this.
Yes.
I'm making a bamboo.
Okay.
It's orange, yellow, orange, nice, red.
Let's dissect and see what part this framework plays in our world, our life, in our everyday. I leave them with their own journal. Okay, we could pause here, and I would just wrap up briefly with just a few points. There has been a lot of focus in the discussions around education and the impact of the pandemic on education, on the technical elements and the lack of technical capacity. And although there's been a big gap identified in terms of the availability, in terms of the provision of educational material. And when I talk about educational material, I am talking about culturally relevant educational material for the Caribbean, for the developing world, for small island states, for Latin America. Because we have always been trying to play catch up. A lot of our educational material have been borrowed. So in fact, the education system and then the framework of under which we function in the education system is really colonial based. So this, we have an opportunity in looking at educational material as we move forward post pandemic, to make sure that we fill that cultural gap, that we bridge those biases that exist in the educational material, and so move forward. And just to share a little experience, just in the touch on the theme of my talk, which was what I call who's minding / mining educational content. The problem that we have regarding creative educational content is larger. It kind of bridges two worlds. So it combines the problems that exist in the digital world for digital content and the general mining that is happening there without concurrent remuneration for your work, and what is happening in the creative sector. Um, the same obtains for creative cultural material, of course, because we don't have ownership of the platforms on which they are put in, and then all the additional problems with regard the macro problems in relation to infrastructure, the banking preparedness, and all those things. It is very, very difficult to be able to make a living out of that. So we have to come up with different frameworks now in terms of how we support the development of creative educational material. As we identified, there are very few professionals who span that field and who can fill that void in terms of providing creative cultural material for our region. So I'll wrap up there and we'll be chatting afterwards, I believe, at some time. Thank you very much for this opportunity.
Thank you so much, Dr. Chris Ramsay, for your wonderful insights and sharing with us. And we look forward to seeing more of your work, and that you may be able to share the progress on your work with us in some other settings as well. So thank you so much for taking the time and being part of this year's Caribbean Tech Summit as well. We look forward to hearing from you. Have a great day.
Same to you, and best wishes to all your speakers. It's really, I'm glad to be a part of this very dynamic team of women in tech. So thank you for the opportunity as well.
You're most welcome. Thank you. Bye.
Bye-bye.
So, everyone, like you all know that we have a great lineup of speakers today. And without further ado, I want to introduce our next speaker of today, who is an amazing person in the tech space in the Caribbean. So I'm very fun to introduce to you our next speaker, who is Castelline Tylers. Castelline, you have to correct me if I don't pronounce your name well. I'm pronouncing it with my Dutch accent, so I hope you can forgive me for that. And I will bring you on while I do your introductions. There you are. Hi, Castelline.
Hello.
How are you today?
I'm doing very well. How about yourself?
I'm doing well. I'm so excited to learn from you and to hear your experiences. And let me go ahead and introduce you to the rest of the people here who haven't yet read your bio. So, Castelline is a development professional, an entrepreneur, and an innovator. She is one of the co-founders of IWD Analytics, a Port-au-Prince-based data lab that is a leader in the areas of analytics and advanced computing. Castelline co-founded IWD Analytics after completing her master's degree in at the Middlebury Institute of International Studies. She completed her undergraduate degree at the Stanford University, and she is a huge proponent of using data to advance development outcomes. And I'm really excited about that because Suriname has a lot of data that is not yet structured, so I hope to get some insights, and I think our audience also wants to hear from you. So Castelline, thank you for taking the time and being here today with us. And yes, go ahead and start your talk now.
Yes, thank you, Anushka. So I'm delighted to be here with you all for this lightning talk on non-traditional career paths in technology. I hope in the next 15 minutes that we have together that I can convince you that irrespective of your background, that you can start a career in tech with the right mindset. So I'll start off by sharing a bit about myself, who I am, the role that I currently play, and how I got here. And so contrary to what you might think, my path is very non-linear, yet it could not be more perfect to suit my varied interest. And so as Anushka mentioned, who am I? I am a co-founder of a data lab in Haiti, and I also work as a research manager for the Thematic Research Network on Data and Statistics at the United Nations Sustainable Development Solutions Network. So I do a lot in the data for development space, and it's something that I'm super passionate about. But when you look at my profile, someone who's working, again, who's a co-founder of a data lab, you might expect someone with a STEM degree, someone who is sort of traditionally trained as a data scientist, but that's not the case for me. So my path is very nonlinear, and I'd like to share with you how I got to where I am today and to impart tips to those of you who would like to start a tech career, but perhaps you don't fit a traditional mold. So there is an opportunity out there for you, again, if you have the right mindset, and if you persist, you can start a career in the information and communication technology sector. So I'll start off with my story. As Anushka mentioned, I did my undergraduate degree in international policy and development, but that's not how it began. I think my freshman year, I declared my major as statistics. I thought I would go into the computational field. I didn't do very well in my first semester. I was struggling, in fact, with some of the prerequisite courses, which were calculus. And after 2 semesters, I decided that statistics wasn't for me, that it wasn't suited for someone like me. And that's exactly how I computed it. I just didn't think that STEM was something cut out for me at the time. And so I relegated to the social sciences. I had always had an interest in doing development work, being from Haiti and wanting to go back to Haiti. And so I decided to steer closer to international policy and development. And so I completed my undergraduate degree in that field and sort of buried the interest that I had in numbers and in statistics. I went on to complete my graduate degree in international policy as well. But in my graduate program, I finally sort of unearthed the interest in statistics. I took an intro course on data and policy analysis and loved it. I began also doing field work in Haiti at the time. So I spent the next 2 years doing household survey research in the south of Haiti. And I worked with a team of other researchers, and we conducted surveys all through the South, going from door to door, asking people about their perceptions of NGOs and collecting data on a host of other development indicators. And I absolutely loved the work that we were doing, collecting data, producing insights that could improve human well-being. And I remember deciding at the time, so out of my graduate program and after concluding the field research, that this is something I want to devote my career to, data science, data analytics. It's something that I'm hugely passionate about, and I saw the potential to transform human life when done well. And so out of my graduate program, unlike my peers, I didn't go to work for the World Bank or for nonprofit organizations in the Global South. I decided to career pivot into data science. And at the time, this was 2017, it was a wild idea. And I began applying to different data labs in the States to sort of get my feet in. I was very fortunate, and again, I'll share what my experience was like pivoting into tech from a non-traditional background. I was very fortunate to find an employer in the States that was willing to take a gamble on me. So I didn't have a STEM degree. I didn't have experience as a data scientist at the time, but I did have a portfolio of work that showed my analytical abilities. And so I had my portfolio of work from Haiti, as well as the research I had published, the survey work I had done. They also had me do a number of skills-based assessments to demonstrate that I had basic computational knowledge. And so it didn't matter that I didn't have a 2 or 4 year degree in statistics or computer science. I got the role as a data analyst for a firm in DC. And that literally set my career trajectory to where I am today. And so I started working as a data analyst out of graduate school, and I haven't looked back. And so key takeaways that I might share with you in my path to data science is that the nature of tech recruiting is changing, or at least that was my experience. Employers are increasingly looking at skills-based assessments rather than relying exclusively on 2 or 4 year degrees in a STEM field. Although that's a sure way to get a career in STEM, it's in the field of tech, it's not the only way. And so if you can demonstrate that you have a specific skill, whether that be through a sort of certification program that you took, you may have a possibility of landing your first role in the field of tech without sort of being a traditional applicant. Something else I might say is that you have to have a learning mindset. So once I got the job as a data analyst for the firm in DC, it didn't stop there. I had to continually learn, continually upskill, being that many of my peers were traditionally trained. They were computer scientists, they were statisticians. And so in my first year on the job, I enrolled in a number of data camp courses, Coursera courses to upskill to fill what was at the time skills gap. I taught myself SQL. I took a number of other certifications in statistics, knowing that my disciplinary background isn't STEM and my peers have that background. And so I wanted to fill the skills gap so that I could effectively perform in my role. And so a learning mindset and upskilling is something that you would want to be open to if you want to pivot into tech, again, from a non-STEM background. Something else that helped me is to find your passion project. If you say to yourself, for example, that you're nervous about doing a career pivot because you don't have a portfolio of work, you can always start. And so for me, I think my passion project was doing survey research in Haiti. And that was one of my key projects within my portfolio that employers at the time were looking at when I was applying. So they didn't immediately discount me. So seeing that I had a body of research that I'd done in a project that I was really passionate about demonstrated that, again, I was capable of learning and capable of applying my learnings to do something amazing. And then one last thing I want to highlight is to realize that your multidisciplinary background is an asset. So for me, I get to work in the data for development space, and my background in international policy and development is a tremendous asset. I get to do analyses and bring in a certain domain expertise that someone else with a different background might not have. So I've come to realize that I am successful in the role that I'm in, not despite the fact that I am trained as a development specialist, but it's because of it. And so just to recap, a few things that I would impart on you is that the nature of recruiting is changing. And so while having a 4-year degree in a traditional STEM field is helpful, it's not the only way to start a career. Learning is important. So become a lifelong learner and upskill as needed to fill certain skills gaps. Find your passion project and you will build out, or many passion projects will lead you to building out a portfolio of work. And your background is your asset, and always remember that. So it's truly an honor to be here. I'm happy to talk at length if there are questions about any aspect of my experience. But you will find me now either in Haiti or in the States doing data science to advance sustainable development and to change lives.
Wow, thank you, Castelline. So your background can be an asset. In a world where everyone thinks that, hey, I cannot become successful because I don't have rich parents, or I don't have the proper education, or I don't have, property to get a loan and all that. You're telling us that despite whatever your circumstances, if we have the right mindset, we can be successful. I like that thought. And I think the way that you have applied this to your career is inspiring to many others. I'm looking in the chat to see if there are any questions for you so far, but I think the questions will come as we go. So please hang on and say if there's anything that comes out. But I'm curious, I have a question because your company is based in Haiti, right? In
Yes.
Haiti, as you say it in English. But when we look at the media and traditional media, we don't hear a lot about what's happening in the technology space in Haiti. Can you share a little bit about that?
Yes. So I know the news does not paint perhaps the full story of what's happening in Haiti. And so while there are sort of the negative coverage that you would get, what you don't often see spoken about is the growing technology ecosystem. And so you have a number of startups that are emerging, IET Analytics being one of them, that's using technology in innovative ways. And so we are the first data lab in Haiti, founded in 2020, and we are applying data science across 3 core pillars: data science education, consulting, and research. We launched Haiti's first data science boot camp in 2020. We do technical consulting. We do applied research. And so we're doing everything that you wouldn't expect a tech startup to be doing in Haiti. And I think you'd be surprised, essentially, to see the level of talent that's in Haiti and broadly within the Caribbean. So we're changing the narrative, really, in the work that we're doing.
I'm sure you are, because I have a friend in Haiti. I actually have three friends in Haiti and separate, but one of them, she was trying to start an education in technology for youth. And I just shared some of my experiences with her, and I gave her some of the courses. By the way, people who are watching this now, you can win 3 Udemy courses. So there are online courses, and 3 of the Udemy courses you can win. We have giveaways. So that's something I wanted to touch on. But yes, she wanted to start that in Haiti, and she has done that, and she's rather successful. It's a non-profit project that she is doing. But I think that what you have done is also similar to what I see that's happening in Suriname here, and that more and more tech startups are coming. I have been the chair of the ICT Association in Suriname, which has 65 companies as a member. And what I see is that more and more companies are moving into doing things that you wouldn't expect from a small company in the Caribbean.
Yes, and I'm thinking now, Anushka, that we should connect offline.
Of
We're actively
course.
looking for opportunities to partner with other organizations in the region. And it seems as if you're embedded in the tech ecosystem in Suriname. So maybe there might be a collaboration opportunity.
Oh, I would love that. Yes, sure. We will chat offline. But yes, let me see if my colleague who is today here with us, Kadia, has any questions or any remarks. Because if not, I will let you go. Let's see if I can add her. Hey, Kadia.
Hi,
There you are.
Castelline. Thank you so much for an awesome presentation. I know there's a question in the chat from Mark Hillocks who asks Castelline, what does it take to start a data lab? What are some of the steps involved in starting a data lab? I don't know where Mark is at the moment. That would help, Mark. But Castelline, in general, if I wanted to start a data lab, what do I have to do? Apart from being qualified, what do I what do I have to do?
Okay, I'm going to try and keep this short. Well, I'll share my experience. It's important that you have the right team. So I was very fortunate to have met folks who were experienced data professionals who are my co-founders. And we spent a few years doing market research. So it's important for you to validate that a data lab is needed or appropriate for the specific ecosystem that you have in mind. And so we did market research to sort of validate that there was a need for analytical talent and or expertise in Haiti. After getting that validation, we proceeded to pilot a number of initiatives. So you have to be agile, so be ready to start small and to grow from there. And so we've literally appended services based on demands that have presented after we launched the organization. So find the right team, do market research, be lean, and be willing to innovate based on market demands and the data that you get back. So I hope that answers the question. I could write a dissertation on that.
Yes, that's a whole other conference, guys, a whole other summit. But Cassidy, one question. I know your presentation, you kind of took us through your journey to how you got here, but what you said, a lot of what you said could be generally applied, because when we think of tech in the Caribbean, I will go out on a limb and say in the Caribbean, but I know specifically in Jamaica, when we talk about tech, we tend to talk about what I call hardcore tech, like coding and developers and stuff like that. But there are other careers in the tech space that you can explore, and there are other pathways of getting into those careers. So I know a lot of what you said is generally applicable, but suppose, let's say I'm not a coder, Let's say I'm not a data person with numbers. I get hives every time I hear numbers and maths. So that's not me at all. But I am interested in tech. I may have a background as a teacher, or I may have a background as something else that's not usually associated with tech. How do I then make my way into the tech space? Because we all know that's kind of where the money is right now. So how do I pivot over into that space so I can get some of those coins?
Yes. So one thing I just want to reiterate
Yeah.
is to always see your background as your biggest asset. And so
Yeah.
if you are a teacher, what are your strengths? I imagine that makes you a great facilitator, that you're a great listener. And so I'm perhaps the one role that might be suited to you may be that of a project manager or program manager. I'm not sure. This is me sort of extrapolating.
Sure. Yeah.
Think about your specific skill sets, what strengths you have, and to see what role that best aligns with. And there are myriad of roles, as you mentioned. I've had sort of the pleasure of working in teams. And so while you do have the data scientist, the data engineer, you also have the project manager, the product manager, and they don't necessarily have to be coders to do that role effectively. You also have designers, you have marketing leads. And so increasingly, you find that people are working in diverse teams rather than working in silos where it's just one engineer on a project. No, you have people who have different disciplinary backgrounds working on one project. So I think the best way to get at what role will be best suited to you, again, is to reflect on what your skills are and what assets you would bring to the table.
And also how you can upgrade your existing skills, right? To make them more transferable over into that tech space. That's awesome. So guys, Castelline says you should start by looking at what are the current skill sets that you have, and then maybe use your Google fingers, get to Google and do some research on areas in tech that you may be interested in, what skills that you currently have that are already transferable, or how you can upgrade those skills so they're transferable. Thank you so much for your time. Where can we find you online, Anushka?
One quick thing, Kadia and Castelline. I like how Castelline makes it look so simple, because that's important. Because
I think it's the accent.
No, but most of the time people think that the technology is this mysterious place and it's very difficult and I won't be able. But Castelline brings it. You bring it home. It feels like anyone can step into the space and start. And I like that. I want to add two things. One is also, if you want to pivot your career, find peers, people who are already in the tech space, and you can come to summits like this. That's why we're doing this, for more people to recognize things that they could work on. But also, second, to follow people on social media. Like we have Instagram, we have TikTok, and people are sharing knowledge there, and you can see how your strengths, like Castelline just mentioned, how your strengths can be used there. And I think an account manager, so someone who translates the technology opportunities to the business case that you have, that's also a role many people can have without the hard coding skills, etc. So yeah, I wanted to add that, and thank Castelline for being here with us.
Castelline goes though, to touch on that last point you made about social media. Castelline, are you on social media? Where can we connect with you?
Yes, I am. So I am on Instagram at Castelline T. So I can also share these afterwards.
Sure, yes, you can.
I'm also on Facebook, Castelline Tillis. And if you want to engage with IET Analytics, it's IET spelled in Creole, AYITI, analytics in English.com. So IETanalytics.com. So please reach out if you have a potential project or collaboration in mind.
Awesome. And collaborations are also important and could be your stepping stone. That's network building, right? And it could be your stepping stone into a career into tech as well. Thank you so much, Castelline. And big up to Mark Hillocks over there in St. Vincent and the Grenadines. Thank you for joining us today. Day 2 of the International Women's Day Caribbean Tech Summit 2022. Thank you so much, Castelline.
Thank you all. Have a great evening.
You too. Bye. All right. So Anushka, how are you feeling? I thought that was very short and spicy and sweet. From Castelline, from Dr. Rampersad, we had a little more meat in that video where she, went through and showed some of the work that she's done. I told you guys, she's very accomplished. She's very, very accomplished. So I thought we had really two good presenters. We had a little bit of technical issues. We had a little bit of technical issues, but certainly we had two good presentations. How are you feeling about it so far, Anushka?
I feel that we had a great combination of some, like track record presentation, but also hands-on. What can you do to enter the tech space? So that's why I
Yeah.
loved Castelline's presentation so much, and I'm
Mhm.
looking forward to the next. Let's go ahead and introduce who's next.
Awesome, awesome. So
Mindy.
next up, who do we have next up? Next up, we have Mindy Mohammed. Welcome, Mindy. So Mindy Mohammed graduated from the University of the West Indies with a bachelor's in environmental and natural resource management with a minor in biology. So she have big brains, is what this is saying. She's very smart. Okay, she worked as a teaching assistant for 3 years, where she implemented computer networks and taught children about ICTs, and the underutilization of technology in the classroom motivated her to pursue a BSc special in computer science. So Mindy pivoted, right? During her degree, she participated in Vertana Code Jam and ICPC. And she interned at Wapala, where she dealt with UI UX design, so user interface design, right? Data analytics and chatbot creation. So sorry, user interface, user experience design, data analytics and chatbot creation. She built numerous industry implemented chatbots. And we know that chatbots, if you're a business and you don't have chatbots on your website these days, are you really a business though, right? Currently, she's engaged in applying machine learning, one of my favorite topics, an experimental design concept to advance agriculture in the Caribbean. In her spare time, she plays competitive video games and she swims. And Mindy is from Cropper Foundation and TT Lab. Welcome to day two of the International Women's Day Caribbean Tech Summit. Mindy, it's good to have you. You're going to be talking to us today about the Cropper Foundation and the TT Lab. So, welcome. Thanks for being here.
Hi everyone. You can hear me? Yeah.
We can hear you.
Okay, cool.
Hi,
Hi everyone.
welcome. How are you
Uh,
today, Mindy?
yeah, I'm good. I'm good.
You're good. Where are you coming to us live from?
I'm in Trinidad.
You're
Uh,
coming to us from Trinidad and Tobago. Well, without further ado, we're gonna leave Mindy to make her presentation and then come back with any questions that you have. All right.
yeah. Okay, so let me just share my screen. Right. Hi again. Once again, my name is Mindy Mohammed, Fazia Mindy Mohammed. And today I'll be talking to you a bit about the FAIR project, which is the project that TT Labs and Cropper are collaborating on. Um, I'm a research scientist at TT Labs. I'm also a data analyst at Digicel. And let's get into it. So, the FAIR project is Farming Adaptation and Artificial Intelligence for Resilience. This project, we want to be able to enable farmers to get some real time, rapid assessment of their fields to provide insights into crop, weed coverage, and crop quality, along with water stress. This will be deployed via a mobile application in tandem with a UAV, unmanned aerial vehicle, or drone. And we hope in doing this, we would reduce the reliance on post processing expertise and expensive alternatives for like managing crops, as well as inspire the Caribbean to adopt artificial intelligence for climate resilience and smart agriculture. Um, so let me talk a bit about my team. So we have TT Labs. They are a research entity in Trinidad, and they coupled up with the Cropper Foundation and did a proposal to Azure National Geographic to win a bid for a research project. The Cropper Foundation is led by Omar Mohammed, and Professor Patrick Hussein leads TT Labs. And we came together with other support from NVIDIA to put together this project to help farmers. We also got some support from Namdevco, which is a local company, a local entity also. And we have our approach. We're going to talk about creating a data set in the Caribbean for these specific agricultural models, training these models, and then building a software that is easy to use and also accessible to farmers, right? Really and truthfully, I did this because I'm very passionate about artificial intelligence and the climate and climate change and the effect it's having on subsistence farmers. So I joined this project with that in mind. We are hoping to impact the target audience by encouraging them to spray intelligently, get predictive insights on their crops. So to understand like where's water stressed, where has weed overgrowth, do some minor crop diagnosis, understand crop yield improvement and prediction, and do some crop monitoring all from your cell phone. That is the that is the hope. So I joined this project in May 2021. We used an international data set. It was open source on GitHub, and we created some models for weed detection. We got our drone around about October, and we started data collection and labeling. In December, we trained our initial set of models, and we fleshed out our wireframes for the creation of the app. And we're hoping in June 2022 to have some seminars with some farmers to allow them to learn about how to use the software that we're making. So our data. So our data was collected from local farmers in Trinidad. They were located sporadically in Princestown, in Carney, in Davie, in Vancouver. So we span the length of the country. And it is open field data collection because the data that we use to train the models must be applicable to our use case. So we did go out a lot of mornings, early in the morning, to make sure that there weren't any shadows, collected data, and then broke these into frames and started labeling. On the side here, you will see that this is an NDVI image. Initially, we wanted to use the NDVI sensor to predict chlorophyll activity in plants. However, we realized that the drone that we bought was from abroad, and they had it optimized for large fields, and subsistence farmers don't have access to those large fields. So we adapted our project to build something that was more in tune to what they would want and they would need and they would have access to. So yeah. And then next up, I'll talk a bit about our models thus far. So these are the models that we created on the open source data that we accessed on GitHub. And the Jacquard weighted index is an index that really compares the accuracy of the label data to the predicted data. And we got some pretty good results, 74%, 83%, 75%. So this was a really good, promising start up for this project. And then we took our label data and we ran our models again, the same models, and we trained the data, and then we got predictions that this is for water stress. So on this image here, you would see that these here aren't as water stress because they're more on the inside. So you would find that, no water is really pooling there. It's just running off the leaves and running into the drain. But then you'd find these on the end here. These are water stressed. And as you can see here, the green is water stressed and the red is not water stressed. And we have a pretty good model going for us. We have 88% accuracy for our random forest model. And our XGBoost has 92%, which is also pretty promising. And then we did WeedNet also, which is weed detection. And as you could see here, you would have like weeds on the edges here. And you could see that the computer is identifying, the model is identifying weeds on the edges here in between the plants. And I do believe that this is our random forest. And it is performing at 70% right now. We are currently in the process of making it better. So some general comments. My team and this project are getting more accurate results as we continue to improve our data set. Our models have peeled away the dependency for plant growth and compares the growth of plants based on the actual state of the plant. This allows us to compensate for the varying climate effects that are prominent in Trinidad and Tobago currently. A major factor being flooding, crop damage due to excessive weed growth, and crop quality. I no longer view climate change as an all encompassing doom and gloom situation after working on this project. One of the major ideologies of this project has been that climate change affects all facets of life, but technology has solutions. Over the years, processes have gotten faster, cleaner energy has become more accessible, and we have greater innovation and ingenuity in our collective climate goals. So, what is the future of this project? Well, I believe that through this project, we can identify changes that we need to make within our own society and how we view food security and the significant pressure climate change has on subsistence farming. This project is a stepping stone on our way to changing the effect climate change has on the Caribbean. And I'm very grateful to this conference for allowing my team and I to put forward our project into this forum of change. It's my hope that we can all move forward to do greater things together. Yeah, that's it. I didn't have a very excessive project presentation, short and sweet. Yeah. Any questions, comments, concerns?
Short,
Yeah.
short and sweet is right. Mindy, thank you so much for that presentation. I think I have one question just to kind of, because I'm trying to process a lot of what you said, because I think this is just so amazing, especially the part about this being available to us on our mobile phone. What exactly you would say are some of the objectives that you and your team had built in when you started up this project or initiative? What were some of the main things you're trying to achieve, and how far along are you in getting you know getting closer to those goals?
Well, one of our main objectives was to implement the use of NDVI and equate it to some sort of plant health. But like I said, the center didn't allow for that. But we really wanted to be accessible to all farmers, especially in the Caribbean, because we're all in the tropical band, and all our plants would be suffering from around the same problems, right? Um, and recently in Trinidad, we've had different things that haven't happened before happen now because of climate change. So we just really want to, one, understand the problems that we are facing with subsistence farming, and two, find a way through technology to mitigate those things. And for my environmental project, we are using
I'm not sure what just happened, but I think your sound went. Is it me or is Mindy's sound
It's
gone?
not.
Hi, Maria.
Hi guys, it's not just you. Mindy, you're on mute.
I'm mute for that.
Hi, here we go.
I
Here.
was.
Yes,
Yes,
yes.
you
Something
totally
was
were.
but I'm not.
Oh,
I'm
It's
okay.
a great moment though. You were both actively looking for the sound. Like, where did it go?
right. I think
Uh,
it's an amazing project that you guys are doing. As you said, we are all in
I
this
can't hear
space.
her, but I can hear you, Maria.
You
Oh,
can't hear me.
so that's StreamYard is playing Boogeyman. Okay, so thank you so much, Mindy. That was an awesome presentation. We know you guys are doing some breakthrough work both at Cropper Foundation and TT Lab. And it's so funny because we're going right into another TT Lab staff member who's going to be presenting with us next. So, Mindy, we do hope to follow up with you more, and we hope to share this story as your idea and your solution continues to grow. Thank you so much.
Thank you, thank you. Hope you all have a great day.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay,
Are you
so
hearing me though, Maria?
yeah, I am hearing you.
Oh, okay. Great. Okay, great.
We're
Uh,
kind of having like an AT&T moment. Can you hear me now? I can hear
I
you.
can definitely, I can definitely hear you. Welcome to the day two, Maria. It's good to have you.
Yes,
It's
I'm
good
so
to have
happy to
you.
be here. I'm so sorry to break up this very awesome, entertaining day you guys have been having together.
That's
I
okay. That's okay. We're glad you are here. We're
yeah,
running a little bit behind, guys, but we
yeah.
do have our next speakers coming up. We have Dr. Letitia and Addison and Keevan Ranjaram. And personally, this is the talk I've been looking forward to
Mhm.
the most, because of course they're talking about artificial intelligence. Even though just now Maria Mindy touched on how they are actually incorporating artificial intelligence in their initiative. So, great talk from Mindy. But Dr. Letitia Addison and Keevan Ramjar will be talking to us about winning AI solutions for the growth and resilience, a dialogue about data. Challenge. Are we
Before
are we
before they
ready
get
to go?
before they get started, let me give a very brief introduction to both of them.
Yes.
So they are the Growth and Resilience Data Challenge 2022 winners. And Dr. Letitia Addison and Rajaram are the team coming from UWE St. Augustine. Dr. Letitia Addison holds a PhD in mathematics and an M.Phil statistics from the University of the West Indies, UWE, St. Augustine campus. She's currently a project officer and consulting statistician at the University Office of Planning at the university. She is involved in survey administration, statistical and mathematical modeling, and has over 10 years' experience lecturing tertiary level courses in probability, statistics, and mathematics. Really, Letitia, is it a wonder why you have no? You're so busy. You're busier. You're definitely busier than me. Kivan Rajaram has been working as a data professional for the past 10 years. He has worked at major companies throughout the Caribbean region and most recently at Republic Bank Limited as the manager, analytics, and marketing technology. He has graduated from the University of West Indies with a Bachelor of Science in Mathematics with honors and a Master of Science in Statistics with distinction. He is currently pursuing his PhD in computer science at UWE St. Augustine, where his research areas and applications of artificial intelligence and machine learning. So, thank you so much, guys, for joining us today.
Good afternoon, everyone, and thank you for having us.
Hi guys, welcome. You see, I tell people all the time that we have some amazing tech talent
Yeah.
in the Caribbean, and this is what we're talking about. Welcome, Dr. Addison. Welcome, Ramjaram.
Yeah.
Mr. Ramjaram, glad to have you guys here. Um,
Yeah.
I
So,
am particularly interested in AI. I have a little obsession with AI, so I'm very, very excited to hear your talk today.
so,
Excellent.
so we're gonna leave.
Definitely.
Thank you so much, guys.
All right. So I will share my screen.
And in the meantime, while Kevin is sharing his screen, we just would like to say that we are very honored to be here to be a part of this really esteemed group I was listening to some of the talks earlier, and I'm very, very impressed with all the women tech makers in the field, both in the Caribbean and internationally. So we are very humbled to be a part of this event. And today we would like to give you just a short overview of our disaster risk smart classifier model. Myself and Kevin will present on behalf of the team. We are actually part of a team of UE campuses, both the St. Augustine campus and the Five Island campuses. So the agenda today is just basically to give you all a bit of the background and motivation in terms of our project and solution, the actual idea of what the challenge entailed, and the framework, a bit of an overview in terms of the demo, and then some future considerations for stakeholders. So basically, in terms of climate change, climate impacts in the Caribbean are major. For instance, particularly in the Eastern Caribbean islands, we see that they are very highly vulnerable to climate hazards. The list goes on: tropical storms, floods, landslides, etc. And we know in terms of hurricanes, particularly in the recent in the last few years, we know that these hurricanes cause a lot of infrastructural damage and, of course, economic losses in terms of our GDP, etc. So the motivation in that aspect is we want to find solutions. We want to create a sustainable society. And climate resilience using AI is an extremely great place to start. So in that sustainable society, we want to be able to use climate change adaptation tools. And in today's solution, we're going to actually look into how we can harness the robustness of AI and, of course, machine learning to be able to do so. So in terms of the actual challenge, and we were very honored, as I said, to be part of a 7-member team from both the Five Islands campus and the St. Augustine campuses from the University of the West Indies. The GRD 2022 Climate Resilience Challenge put on by the Eastern Caribbean Central Bank actually involved the development of these AI application prototypes. And we were able to look at deeper insights based on the key climate issues affecting the Eastern Caribbean. So the areas of focus here, there were 3 main areas of focus given in the competition. And we wanted to demonstrate how our technologies could actually drive prototype applications to solve these problems. In specific, our project focused on hurricanes and floods in relation to climate change variables such as temperatures and precipitation. The solution, and we'll actually show you a demo of our solution in a little while, encompassed 3 main areas. We looked at a classification model for predicting the flood risk. We actually built our prototype, which is very scalable in terms of prediction of the risk of floods and other natural disasters. And of course, we also wanted to incorporate and start the conversation on putting or incorporating real-time public feedback using social media to inform emergency response efforts. So this is our prototype, and Kevin will actually dive into that now.
Thank you, Letitia. And again, just to echo Letitia's sentiments earlier, thank you guys very much for being a part of this event. So I'll take you guys through the application framework. In terms of how the framework is laid out, I mean, it is pretty standard for what modern day applications look like, where we have the data being fed into the machine learning algorithms, which is situated at the back end. And this is then fed into the web application to be visualized and accessed on the front end. The impact of this framework could actually result in major job increases, saving both life and limb, minimizing loss of revenues, and improving technological infrastructure within the region to support these ongoing efforts in predicting natural disaster events. A bit about the details of the framework. The challenge itself had some limitations, and most of the limitations that we experienced were on the data pre-processing. We were able to combat that through the use of some of the ETL tools and data wrangling tools. We primarily used Power Query Editor and used Microsoft Power BI as our main visualization and exploratory data analysis tools. And one of the recommendations that we propose moving forward out of this challenge is that instead of hosting the data, in typical Excel or CSV formats, to have them hosted either on servers that are better equipped, whether it be on premises or on cloud solutions, to manage the actual storage of the data. In terms of the model building, we used an Automl platform through an educational license provided by Dataiku. And I mean, for those who aren't as familiar with AutoML applications, it really just packages a lot of the machine learning algorithms that we would traditionally access via libraries in Python, such as scikit-learn, or in R, and the caret package, for example. And it packages all of those in a nice UI, allowing for efficiency and effectiveness in terms of machine learning building. So we were able to quickly put these models into test and production, and very scalable as well, as Letitia would have mentioned earlier. And so one of the recommendations that we propose is that we use AutoML as the backbone based on funding available. And lastly, these models are fed into a visual output. And the tool that we use for the visual output on the front-end application, which we embedded into a Google site, just to, again, to show the scalability of the solution, was Microsoft Power BI. But we did experience some challenges in terms of Microsoft Power BI being very domain-specific. So, we suggested that in future use cases that we use like more of a open source application, something perhaps in JavaScript that end users can visualize or even access. So I will give you guys a quick demo of what the end of the application looked like. So here, this was the end, the user interface where users could go in and log in to see the likelihood of a natural disaster event happening. We were able to create some summary statistics, but the thing that really we wanted to hone in or zero in on was the fact that, we can predict here the likelihood of events happening based on certain features. So for example, if the average minimum temperature went down by 1.26 degrees, the likelihood of a natural disaster occurring was increased by 15.36 for Antigua and Barbuda. And these were pretty much the key variables and their importance. And we were able to do this and extrapolate it for the entire OECS region based on data that we got from both the challenge and other third-party sources. And pretty much this was what was able to be fed in from the machine learning algorithms that Letitia would have mentioned. Some of the algorithms that we used in terms of building these models were like the logistic regression, classification model, artificial neural networks, support vector machines. Actually, each one of the countries had like different success patterns based on different factors or variant factors. So yeah, that was pretty much the overview of the application. And I will hand you back over to Letitia to discuss, what next steps we have.
Great. So actually, in terms of the bigger picture and drawing from what Kevin just mentioned, we would like to see an integration of the tool into climate services. We have a regional consortium in terms of health, tourism, agriculture, water, and of course, climate change is a very big issue. So to integrate the tool into sectors would mean, in terms of, let's say, agriculture, we would want that predictive tool to assist farmers to have a gauge about areas, let's just say, with highest flood risk. Even in tourism, we could provide tourists with the data that they need to understand if there's a specific time of year they should come to the islands or avoid the islands. Even persons who own hotels, the infrastructural development in terms of where they should locate the hotels, where has greatest flood risk or hurricanes would hit. These types of things would be important to our regional partners. And of course, what we would like to do in future is to really build a cohesive regional and international effort using capacity building, of course, with respect to awareness, development of skills for all our key stakeholders, innovation hubs and databases for that regional effort. And we have listed a few parties which we would consider for such a coordination: Catastrophe Risk Insurance Facility, the Community Climate Change Center, and most importantly, the Caribbean Disaster Emergency Management Agency. And of course, globally, we want to actually have incorporation of international partners as well, such as IPCC. And in terms of the tool itself, we would like to see an integration of other variables. In the competition, we worked with specific variables. We would like to also include more social media data. We would like to include other sorts of variables in terms of heat intensities and those types of things to actually build a very robust model. So this is our starting prototype. And we really look forward to building something that is really, really beneficial for not only the Eastern Caribbean islands, but the Caribbean as a whole. And just to end off, we would like to also think about this point made by Dr. Curtis Charles. He is the head of the School of Science and Computing and Artificial Intelligence, which is a new up-and-coming school at the UE Five Islands campus. And he really has driven the initiative for small island developing states, stating that we really need to gain deep insights from the data. And that's really an inspiration to not only our team, but of course, I'm sure it will be an inspiration to your viewers as well. So this is actually the basis of our model and our prototype and our solution. And we thank you very, very much for the opportunity to be a part of this event, and really would like to answer any questions you have and get any insights from you.
Awesome presentation, guys. I am always so amazed at the things that we come up with in the Caribbean. We were talking earlier about using technology to solve some of the perennial problems that we have, and what you'll notice if you're paying attention to the conversations over the last 2 days is that we share pretty much some of the same problems from island to island in the Caribbean. So a lot of the solutions that you guys are coming up with can also be beneficial across the Caribbean. So one question I have is this something you guys were working on before the challenge that you built on, or was this because of the challenge that this idea came up? How did you guys get to this point? Where did the idea come from?
Well, I could probably start off, and I know Kevin will jump in. Interestingly enough, we started off as a group inspired by wanting to do research in data science, and I put forward the idea that I would have liked a team to enter a challenge with the Women in Data Science, which is an international competition. And it just so happened that while we were working on that competition, this actual, the Caribbean aspect of a similar competition, because that competition actually dealt with some aspects of climate change and, electricity and cooling of buildings and all these types of things. And when this came into play, it really was an alignment somehow with what we were doing. So, when you start one thing and everything just comes at you at the same time. So it actually worked out that way. We got a recommendation from Dr. Ramsay from the Five Islands campus, who was part of the team at the time as well. And she encouraged us, said, we have the expertise. Let's jump into this challenge and really, see what we could do here. And Kevin, you want to add to that?
I mean, it was just really, I guess, all the right people at the right time, sort of thing that came together. And we had the, I guess, the right resources as well to be able to put this challenge together as quickly as we did, right? We use Automl to help scale all of these solutions that we proposed. So really and truly, it was just like, I think, where opportunity kind of met preparation kind of event that led to the success of this. But yeah, what we also had a really good group of people that was able to put in the work and dedicate time. We all have busy schedules, so that was definitely like a huge factor that contributed to the success of this.
Right. So the university aligned for you guys and everything came together. So the question is that one last question, and then we really have to go, what's next? So now you guys have won this challenge. You guys have this great concept and framework and stuff. What's next in terms of this project? Where do we go from here? When can we expect some kind of rollout? Because we have problems. We have problems that you guys could possibly have a solution for. So what can we expect next?
Well, in fact, it's really a great opportunity that we're speaking here today, because tomorrow we have a meeting with the Eastern Caribbean Central Bank, who actually put on the competition with all the teams. I mean, all the solutions that were entered were really amazing solutions. And that's the start of a capacity building innovation hub where we want to be able to expand on this and do more research, working with partners in different Caribbean islands. And I think from there, once we have the support, we'll be able to go a little bit more regional with the model.
Awesome. And by support, they mean money. They need money.
Yes.
Awesome.
Thank you for that
money.
plug.
You guys don't want to say because you're the professionals, but they need money, people. Yes. Dr. Addison, Kevin Ranjaram, thank you guys so much. Awesome presentation. And congratulations again. Looking forward to what comes after this. Thank you so
very
much.
Thank you so much for having us.
Thank you.
Awesome sauce. And so guys, we're quickly Maria, are you here? Is Maria in the building? We're quickly moving on to coming up next. We have a panel discussion or climate action, sustainability and technology panel discussions, and we have some awesome speakers lined up for that. Kadeen Singh, Omar Mohammed, I want to say Sian, or is it Sean Young, Dr. Rampasad will be back with us, Alpha Senan, Sasha Jatan Singh, and it's going to be hosted by Sarah Bernard. And Sarah, are you ready? Adding Sarah to the stream. Hi, Sarah.
Hi.
How are you? How have you been enjoying the summit so far? We've had some amazing discussions.
Really good. I'm really impressed with the work that people have been doing, so well. TT Lab, Copper Foundation, and the OECS Data Challenge. Like, I am just in the past few months, I've really been amazed at what we are doing here in the Caribbean. So, mind blowing.
Awesome. So I'm gonna hand over to you as you lead us into our first panel discussion.
All right. Oh, the first. Awesome. So, guys, everyone who's watching, I'm a little nervous, so I have my little buddy with me. Yeah, so just, be with me in spirit. And I'm going to introduce these amazing local talents. First, we have up Shan Coffee Young. She is a waste management educator, consultant, and social entrepreneur. Shan is an award-winning environmental advocate and educator, and the founder and principal consultant of Sahel Environmental Services Limited. Can we have Shan up on? So as I say them, so there are people in the background, right? So as I say the names, can we let them into the stream? Next up, we have Sasha Jatan Singh. Sasha Jatan Singh is a managing director of the Journal of Caribbean Environmental Sciences and Renewable Energy. Sasha has been working on environmental policy and regulation for over 13 years. And currently, she's the Commonwealth National Climate Finance Advisor to Antigua and Barbuda with the Commonwealth Secretariat. Welcome, Sasha. Oh, hi, Shan.
Hi.
And here's Sasha. Nice to meet you. Hello. And Omar Mohammed is the Chief Executive Officer and Trustee of the Copper Foundation, which is a driver for sustainable and equitable development in the Caribbean. He's also the director of CAISO, Sex and Gender Justice, giving voice to the LGBTQI+ community in Trinidad and Tobago. Welcome, Omar. And we have Alpha Senan. Alpha Senan founded Y Farm, which stands for We Help Youth Farm, a globally recognized agricultural educational entertainment, which we call agri-edutainment company. Alpha was selected as the Social Entrepreneur of the Year by CMEX Tech Mexico and Ashoka organization, and was also named the 40 Under 40 Influencer of the Year by the government of Trinidad and Tobago. Welcome, Alpha. I saw your TED Talk. Wonderful. Kadeen Singh is a quantitative UX, which stands for User Experience Researcher at Google, working on climate change technologies. She uses data science to uncover insights about users and helps build products that are user-centered and that solve real-world problems. Welcome, Kadeen. So hi, everyone. I'm so glad that you are here. let me introduce myself just to let people know, know who I am, and so the panelists are, are familiar with me. Some of you may not know me. So I'm Sarah Bernard. It's so nice to meet you. I'm the CEO and founder of Smart Kids Educational Club. We have introduced over 2,000 students in Trinidad and Tobago to STEM and coding. I was ranked among the top 50 Caribbean women in tech 2021 by Silicon Career, and I'm a practicing data scientist. I want to say this, I am over 40 years old, and I am now a data science intern. So those of you who listened earlier on to the talk about non-traditional ways to get into tech, trust me, you can do it, and at any age. So let's get right into it. I know everyone's excited. And I want to start off by saying that, by introducing some facts, right? So Earth has just experienced its 7th warmest years on record. So that was from 2015 to 2021. The Paris Climate Agreement calls for all countries to strive towards a limit of 1.5 degrees C. Now, the individual country plans need to become a reality to slow down the rate of heating and achieve this global goal. I'm asking the panelists, right? And I will start with Kadeen, right? Where do you see the Caribbean nations fitting into all this? Are we doing enough?
Hi, Sarah. I'm sorry. Before we go on, there's one more panelist to go. Dr. Chris Ramprasad. Our apologies, Dr. Ramprasad. So sorry. Sorry about that, Sarah.
Oh, I'm sorry. I did not. My apologies, Dr. Chris Ramprasad. I did see your presentation earlier. So I don't have your bio up in front of me, but we did present you earlier, and I am aware that you are a specialist on particularly education, local education, and applying that to technology, right? So I didn't have the words in front of me, but I hope I got it right. You can correct me later when you come in, Dr. Ramprasad. So I'm directing this question to Kadeen first, and I'll pass it around, right? And anybody can chime in, right? We're going to have a free-flowing discussion.
Thank you, Sarah. Hi, everybody. I'm Kadeen. So I love this question, and I really want to hear what all of the other presenters have to say. I will put this disclaimer up at the top. So I work for Google. I work on all of the products and technologies that we use at Google to work on climate change at scale globally. I don't work with a particular focus in the Caribbean, which is why I'm so excited to be here and to learn more from all of you. That being said, technology can be used everywhere. You just had the speakers in the session right before us, like using technology to analyze climate change data to help people on the ground make decisions in the Caribbean. That's amazing application of technology. The question was maybe around like, what could the Caribbean do more of? I think everybody needs to do more. Like all of the latest IPCC reports, all of the countries aren't necessarily meeting their NDC targets. We need to do more. From a technology perspective, there are a couple things that I think about. And also because I work within research. So my job is to think about how users, how consumers think about climate change, how they think about taking action in their life, and how to make it easy for people to take action. So that's on the consumer side. I also work on technology for the non-consumer side. So things like Google Earth is being used like by academics, by researchers, by people like on farms to analyze their data, to look at patterns, how things have changed in land management over the years. So there's a lot of things that we could start doing with technology. But again, what could the Caribbean do? I'd love to see just more like grassroots education awareness campaigns. I know that some countries have awareness campaigns within their NCD programs. I think social media is a great way to do that. Last year at the summit, we had a great panel with some other speakers in the Caribbean talking about this kind of thing. The reason that I'm saying that awareness and education is important is because you need an educated population to kind of push for these more systematic changes. You need people to understand climate change. You need people to understand why it's important. There's a huge aspect of climate change which just comes back down to environmental conservation. And for people to push their governments and their corporations to demand more change and to demand more now, because it's in our best interest in the Caribbean and everywhere. We just need people to be more educated and more aware. One way that Google is doing this is by building this into our products. For example, on Google search, if you go type climate change now, you'll get a very nice curated experience. And that's something that we worked on last year. And we did a whole bunch of user research to figure out what people wanted about this. So we worked with the UN. People really want to see expert sources. We worked with the UN to make sure that we were giving any user anywhere in the world the best information possible. So that's just one of the ways that Google is trying to do it. I'd love to figure out how we can do it more. And obviously you all of the other panelists on this call are doing it. I'd love to just have more conversation or more touch points with you all to figure out how technology can help you.
Thank you so much,
Yeah,
Kadeen.
I'll stop there. Thank you.
Thank you. Does anyone in particular want to chime in? Because I know we have people that are in education and awareness in particular. So like Alpha and Shan and Dr. Ramprasad. Anyone wants to take it away?
Yeah, sure. I am glad, Kadeen, thank you for that. And I'm not sure if you looked at my presentation, but we actually stopped at a point where I was introducing, just before the pandemic hit us in 2019, I spent a lot of time upgrading my own qualifications with National Geographic in terms of climate change education. So while I've been doing work, in fact, I was one of the pioneer reporters on environment in the region. So I have a substantive volume of work, research work, in terms of driving social change and ways of driving social change from the top down, from policy level to preschool level. And what I was going to introduce was a framework for learning, for training, for teaching children climate awareness from preschool. Because I strongly believe that we need to work with children to create the culture shift at the top that we want to get, we want to have happen. Unless children push their parents into certain kinds of action, I think the adults are more honed in into certain kinds of practices, and children can have way of effecting change. So I've been developing a whole cadre of learning material, multimedia learning material, for curriculum reform, for changing learning frameworks that would bridge creative media, bring the sciences and the arts together. Alongside that, a number of series I had done called Environmental Friendly, which was at the start of the whole environmental movement from the first Rio Summit, where sustainable development got put on the agenda. I was around in the early 90s. So a volume of material that is ready and waiting to be converted into multimedia, and it taps into almost every aspect of the Caribbean environment, whether it's the sea, land, sky, the bad practices, the best practices. And it would certainly be nice if we can have a chat sometime on how I can work with you in getting that material out. That would be of mutual benefit, of course, to both of us.
So Dr. Ramprasad, thank you so much for touching on that. Because one of the things that this talk is supposed to bring, so, Maria O'Brien is really the planner behind this entire event.
Amazing
job. One of the things that she wanted to do was to make sure that this is not just a panel, but a progress panel. So if collaborations come out of it, an actual action, so it'd be good to see, what collaborations can come between yourself and Kadeen. That would be amazing. And I love that you all touched on awareness and education, so important. One of the things that I want to was stressed on with respect to the Caribbean is our size, you know. So one of the things that the Prime Minister of Barbados would have stressed on is that we're small, our budgets are small, but the impact of climate change on us is really large. What activities can we be focusing on, or should we be focusing on, given the unique circumstance that we are in? Omar, I'm gonna pose that question to you.
Sure. Thanks, Sarah. Hi, everyone. Some familiar faces here. I think one of the biggest things we can do as the Caribbean, again, we're small, we're very highly impacted, and I think as you know, I would probably want to hand over to Sasha after this to talk about the moral leadership that countries like the Caribbean can wield. Because you know, I think the best thing we can do really is sort of just advocate at all different levels when it comes to things that relate not just to the Caribbean but other small island states. So, you know, provide the moral leadership for things like loss and damage funding, provide the moral leadership for, you know, moving climate finance, you know, from just funding ESG activities in the West to, you know, more of the global South, and really sort of just, you know, playing that role. I mean, there's a really great book that I would tell everyone to get by Naomi Klein, and it's Capitalism and Climate, and it's really talking about all these social movements that challenged all of these, you know, issues like apartheid, discrimination, and really, again, the moral leadership of small groups. And I think, you know, the Caribbean, you know, you just mentioned Sarah, Mia Motley, and of course you have Antigua and Barbuda, you know, advocating for loss and damage fund, and really playing, and of course our, you know, siblings in the Pacific Islands and so on, really sort of acting as that moral leadership. So I think that, you know, by consistently having that voice and being on the front lines and advocating for more just climate practices, and practices run from funding to technology to everything. I think that's really probably for me one of the most impactful things we could do in the Caribbean.
Wow, so powerful. Thank you, Omar. Moral leadership. And you know, it's good to know that, you know, it's not just, you know, one thing. So yes, we need awareness at the youngest level. Yes, we need education, but we need leaders that are aware of the problems and that can appeal to others and, you know, bring them together towards, you know, towards change, moral leadership. I'm taking that away. And Sasha, can you chime in on that, especially as it relates to finance and policy?
Sure, no problem. So, hi everybody, thanks for being here, and thanks Omar for pulling me into the discussion. So, in terms of I think small island developing states have been leading the charge in terms of of climate change adaptation, mitigation, loss and damage, and also financing at the international climate change negotiations. And really and truly, the discussion isn't about just mitigation alone, but it's how can the most vulnerable states, you know, SIDS and least developed countries, how can we adapt and how can we learn to deal with the effects of climate change that, you know, we haven't caused it. I mean, collectively, the Caribbean, we emit less than 1% of global greenhouse gas emissions in the world, right? But we are most vulnerable to that. So clearly, what we have to do is ensure that we are able to lead and guide the discussions, the negotiations that are happening right now currently. This, you know, the negotiations are starting up already up until COP27, which will happen in November in Egypt. And this is important because we can't just sit idly by and wait for other people and other countries to tell us how we should deal with climate change. It has to come from the countries and from the people living here. And that's why this issue of not just moral leadership, but this whole issue of climate justice and what it means for people living in small island developing states, that has to take precedence, and it has to inform our policy, related to climate change, related to technology, and education as well. It can't just be us just sitting idly by. And that conversation on justice and access to information and how we participate and engage in policy and in decision making is important. Um, and then also how we decide on finance. What is priority for our countries, how we want to do this. And it's not only the governments doing this, it has to come from the people, the communities, from youth as well, from private sector. It can't just be one size fits all
So
solution that doesn't exist. And
I'm
it
gonna
has to
jump in
come
here,
from
Sasha. So Sasha, I'm
participation.
gonna jump
So
in here.
no problem. So all I want to do is just send this over now to Shan, because I know she has quite a lot of experience in really focusing on awareness and education, and not just only creating frameworks, but I've seen her actually do this with youth and with businesses as well. So I think she would be fantastic to showcase how this is happening already here in the Caribbean.
Thanks, Sasha. Sarah, did you want to say anything before I answer that, or you want me to just go ahead and answer? You tell me.
Oh, I did want to say something.
Well, go
Thank
ahead
you.
and say it. Go
Thank
ahead and
you.
say it.
Thank you. Okay. So, and you're exactly who I was gonna put this to next.
Sure.
Because one of the things I did want to highlight from Sasha was the vulnerability of the most vulnerable states, basically. It's who we are here in the Caribbean, especially in the OESCS. And what I found really great, we had that presentation just now by Dr. Letitia. You all could help me out with the name. Somebody could type it in. And Kivan, because I know them on a first name basis. So Letitia and Kivan, the winners of that GRD data challenge. That was an AI solution that they put forth. It was out of basically the private sector, the OECS central bank, and so or a state body, you can say. So, but at the end of the day, it was a local solution. So local competition with a local solution, and that is so important. And that we have the capacity, the human capacity that COPPA is all about, the human capacity here to bring our own solutions, and we don't have to wait on a first world savior. But we do need to partner with them. And with that, I wanted to say, one of the things that we tend to be good at here is really the adoption of technology. So we use technology. So anybody could Google anything, right? And we're very good consumers. But what we really need to focus on, as the OECS has shown, and TT Lab and COPPA, is that we need to focus on research and innovation, but we don't always have the funding for that. So there are opportunities out there to apply data science. There are opportunities to get the small farmer, the small man, the mother who has only a cell phone, etc. How can we invite them to use technology, or to educate them, at the grassroots level, as we like to say, to really impact climate change, or I should say climate resilience and sustainability, because it's not just about the climate, solid waste as well. And we'll talk about that going forward. So Shan, can you touch on that first?
Thanks, Sarah. So for me, I operate in the waste management space, specifically in waste education. And as Sasha was mentioning, she and I have partnered together, and she's actually seen me in action. But the thing is, two points that I wanted to make. One, waste is not always a part of the climate change discussion.
So that is the first point that I wanted to make. For far too long, I strongly believe that we have not given it the attention that it rightfully deserves. I think if we continue to turn our eye on waste management as small island developing states, as Caribbean islands, we will be faced with this magnanimous challenge that we will not be able to handle. So the work that I do at SILE is on the ground, is with children, because they are powerful agents of change, as Dr. Chris said, and allowing them to, because one of the things that I've realized is that the children are extremely smart. They have the answers. It is the adults in their lives who tell them differently. So they already know of some of the things that they should be doing. But one of the key points, and I made this in a presentation I gave earlier this month, is that we have to meet people where they are. So we talk about education and the need to educate and the need to educate, but we have not changed the way we educate. Therefore, we are not meeting people where they are. People learn, we have visual learners, we have auditory learners, we have tactile learners, we have people who are a combination of all those things, people who videos work. My daughter's highly creative. She loves to sing, dance, paint, and so on. So oftentimes you find that people like her tend to get left behind in the discussion because I just wanted to watch a video, or I just want to, to do different things, or just read this book. Ways that don't appeal. So I continue to say, even though we talk about education and the fact that it needs to change, the fact that we must do more of it, we have to start focusing on the how versus the what.
Thank you so much, Anne. And with that, I wanted to touch on something there, digital sufficiency. So in terms of, technology being, we think that technology is going to solve all of our problems, but really and truly, it's not the case, right? Technology actually, thanks to technological revolutions, things are easier, but it also means too, we've had more pollution. That's why we have, the second industrial revolution caused all of this pollution. So, in terms of, and this question really goes out to Alpha, so when we talk about educating differently, right? It's not just about more technology, applying technology to solve all problems. And so the question is, how do we go about that in a more logical way, in terms of applying technology, enough technology where it's needed, and what are the other things that we can do in terms of education? And I think when it comes to food security, you can touch on that first, Alpha.
Yeah, thank you very much. Pleasant good afternoon, everyone. Pleasure to be here. Diving right into it, we must adopt technology, yes, but we must not leave out our legacy. We must not leave out our tradition. We must not leave out our indigenous practices. We must not leave out the soil. And we know we're talking save the soil these days as well, which is absolutely important for climate change. One of our most recent comic books, those who are not familiar, we created the Agriman Amazing Adventures, and it's about a superhero characters born right here in the Caribbean. So interesting when you said before that we don't need some superhero to come and save us. We have our own heroes here, right? But yes, we need partnership. So Agriman Adventures, our most recent issue, speaks about secrets of the soil and understanding. We had a star character in that issue that happens to be an earthworm. Very important for our soil, very important for our food production, very important for food security. And then we thought about, do we create a climate change superhero, or do we create a climate change villain? And we did a little small case study, and we came up with a villain called Climutate. And the story speaks about the impacts of climate change on our actions as human beings, the things that we do, things that we don't do, right? But back to the very important question, IT meets IT. Indigenous techniques meets information technology, right? Legacy meets modernity. And these are some of the things that we must understand as a region moving forward, because the first thing that we have to protect is I hear the whole audience saying food. I hope so. the first thing that we must protect is our food, right? And in protecting our food, we must protect our indigenous practices as well. Yes, technology, but we must understand that there is ways and means of merging these things together. Because, you know, so much times you talk about the different types of hydroponics, aquaponics, etc. And some people knock and bash soil production, soil farming, traditional farming. And I say, no, let's merge these things together to create a safer, you know, and more healthier, because no longer are we trying to feed the future, but we're trying to nourish the future. And these things are very important words, and not only food that fill you, but foods that fulfill you as well too, right? So last but not least, you know, it's absolutely important that we understand climate smart agricultural techniques, you know, as it relates to how do we move forward in bridging the gap with young people, bridging the gap with older people, understanding what they can apply. You know, so a very interesting program was done recently in Grenada, you know, by the SIAP. I can't remember what the whole acronym stands for right now, but they did a climate smart agricultural workshop with 4-H students in Grenada. And this must be adopted throughout the Caribbean. You know, understanding, you know, children went on different farms and understanding different climate smart things that they are using. So very, very interesting suggestions that came out before from other panelists about education from the children level to the youth level. We cannot wait until you reach university to teach our youth about food security. We cannot wait till we get some PhD to learn about climate change adaptability. It must happen from that level, from the ground up.
So I'm gonna thank you so much. Listen, I just learned so much there. Thank you, Alpha. You know, one of the things that I do want us to touch on, and so panelists, I know everybody wants to talk, but I might just look back to Shannon. Don't worry, everybody else will get a second chance to speak. Really is about, you know, technology and you know, so Alpha touched on it. You know, you don't need to just adopt technology willy-nilly. And one of the things I think, and I think we're getting better at it, what we used to do in the Caribbean, you know, we see the first world just adopting technology, and we're like, oh, you know, we just, you know, why don't we just adopt technology? So we buy laptops, we, you know what I mean, we you know, we have our virtual, you know, what stuff there, virtual reality headset XYZ. You know, we have these cars, etc. But the thing is, even though we, you know, we have a whole set of cars and whatever, you know, but wouldn't it be wiser if we're building smart cities of the future in the Caribbean? You know, should we be focusing on low tech transportation? You know, so for example, encourage bike riding. You know, so sometimes we think that advancement means that it has to be a technological advancement. But however, what we've ended up doing, so for example, with sustainable energy, let's just say, what it end up doing is a lot of it impacts mining industries and has generated a lot of solid waste. You know, so there's this myth, I think, nowadays when we think, oh, we're switching to green technology, but does that necessarily mean, you know, is it really green? You know, so that's one of the questions that I want to ask to Shan. You know, what is there a gap that you see we're missing there, and can you help us to close that gap when it comes to the adoption of technology?
Well, let's tell me I only have 2 minutes to talk, so let me see if I can keep it tight, right? The thing is, and you made a very good point with sometimes we think that when we want to increase technology, we have to go big, very further along in the technological advancement. But in waste management specifically, there are simple things that we haven't even started to do well yet, far less for getting to that technological advancement point. You understand? So now, as practitioners, the audience knows about the R's, right? So it knows about reduce, reuse, and recycle. But according to the waste management hierarchy, those three are no longer enough. We have repairing and refilling and repurposing and replacing and rotting, right? Which is one of my favorite ones, right? So we have all of these other cases or all of these other R's of things that we haven't even really begun to touch on. So waste is still very much a low technology space. It's still waste is managed traditionally by a landfilling, and that is still the primary method of disposal across a number of Caribbean islands. There are those of us who are, looking at applying and seeing how can we make things, including myself, how can we make things a little easier, in keeping with some of the things Alpha mentioned with traditional ways. But let's see how can we elevate that, just a tips. So for me, it's not just about, and you said it, Sarah, it's not just about taking, the whole cart and the whole horse. It is about what are the things that we can begin doing that are simple enough to make a big impact, and that we can do it collectively as a community. So for us in the waste management space, it is about getting people to practice all of the R's, right? And to have the necessary policy and legislation support that. So for instance, in Trinidad and Tobago, the collection of recyclables is not mandatory. It's voluntary. So in getting people to now separate their recyclables at home, that's a way that we can start. That does not require any big technology to be able to do that. It requires some infrastructural things, yes. But things like that is what we need to start paying attention to, especially in my space. Climate change, renewable energy, there are advances there. But these are some of the things in my space specifically that I see that we can start doing. And then also, and having the legislative things for, we know that there are those that are not going to budge, and the big stick will have to deal with them, aka the law. But we have to, reach people where they are, encourage them, use really innovative communication strategies, which is one of the things that we do at SIL, is to help companies.
So
come
I'm gonna cut you there, Shan. Thank
Yes.
you so much. Now, and I'm glad that you kind of brought us back to basics. So one of the things that I want to pose to the panel, right, is like a wish list, right? So if it were that Caribbean governments were going to invest, let's say $50 billion, however much money, right, into one or two climate action and sustainability activities, where would you recommend that they spend that money, right? So I'm going to ask that first, so everybody's going to get a chance to answer this. So basically, it's like, hey, if I could tell the Caribbean what they need to do now, this is what you should do. So first, Dr. Ramprasad.
Oh, sure. I was just so enjoying this discussion. And I can add another R to you, the respect. And that's where I'm going to spin off from. Alpha, we right on board. My number one top recommendation to the Caribbean governments and Caribbean policymakers and Caribbean leaders and everybody else who's trying to change the conversation for the Caribbean. We have been ingrained in this thing about as we are recipients of knowledge and know-how from elsewhere. And the burden of technology adds that to us. Our strongest assets, especially when it comes to climate change and to so many other things, is the know-how that we have. All of our communities, from the indigenous communities to all the migrants who have come here, have come from very strong attachment to the environment and to the land, right? We have not been leveraging that sense of that knowledge that we have, and to push back at some of the conversations that are happening around climate change that makes us feel that we are the culprits and the behaving badly and what have you. And that is because we don't respect the knowledge and the know-how that we have. One of the projects that I tabled in the video was something I was calling the Fed Challenge, which is our families, our elders, and our districts. And when I saw that lockdown was happening during COVID time, I actually thought that was an amazing opportunity that Caribbean leaders could have taken to strengthen their communities, to come together, where young people can learn from the older people, and they can actually, have strengthen that mutual relationship. You get time to spend with elders and draw out that knowledge they have, the knowledge they have about the universe, about our connections, about the value for nature and those spiritual elements that surround that as well. That is very, very strongly
Thank you,
embedded in our cultures.
Dr.
And we,
Ramsay. Thank you
yes.
so much. And
Yeah.
this that and the fact that nowadays, data is king. Now you're going into, okay, but which type of data? And you're saying, let's put our money, in terms of preservation of knowledge, that is local.
Because our knowledge isn't there. Our knowledge isn't on Google. You see, that's the thing. That's where we are lacking, and that's why I would like to have this conversation.
And I would say not yet. It's not yet
Yes.
on Google. So I think that is probably a an action waiting to happen, right?
Absolutely.
And so now, Omar, what would you spend that budget on?
Okay, well, I guess I'll give a really nerdy response. I think the Caribbean, there's not a lot we can do to mitigate, as Sasha said, but there's a lot we could do to adapt. I think a lot of our Caribbean economies, our resilience, and all of that is based on our ecosystems. And I think the idea of what they call ecosystem-based adaptation is a very critical thing for countries in the Caribbean to invest in, and it's starting to happen. But I would literally invest that money into mapping what they call ecosystem services, which is the benefits that nature provides. So it's the production of food, it's pollination by bees, it's coastal protection by reefs, mapping out all of these islands, mapping out these services which you can do, and coming up with a very clear strategic plan to increase those services by a certain percent over the next 10 years. And that will help keep our buildings resilient with the incoming hurricanes, protect our coast, make sure we could feed ourselves, and not necessarily have to invest all that money into, again, sometimes white elephants like big buildings, etc. There's a lot you can do to shore up our resilience from literally the ground up. So that's where I would put that money.
Oh, thanks, Omar. So I hope I got you right. So basically, it's almost like a maintenance project, in terms of maintaining and shoring up the infrastructure that we already have. Yeah,
Our natural infrastructure. Yeah,
our natural infrastructure. Well said. And Alpha, can you add to that conversation? What would you recommend governments in the Caribbean spend $50 billion on?
Well, ideally, we should try our best to move towards green energy. We should be investing in green transportation, the use of clean energy, of course, the educational programs in schools, developing ancestral agricultural gardens, using climate smart technological practices, definitely conservation programs for sure. Definitely less talk, more action. If you had to pay people to talk less and act more, I am down for that. If it costs $1 million, talk less, please, and plant more trees, definitely the forests, we definitely need to reduce the greenhouse gases, So these are some of the, to me, it sounds like no-brainers, but then it has to be written into this policy, that policy, remove some of these red tapes, and let's get down to practical solutions, And in this way, I think we could definitely, reduce some of these greenhouse gases, invest in green transportation, plant more trees, plant trees in the city, and these are some practical things that I think, we could invest in, and it will definitely assist.
Thank you very much, Alpha. So we're hearing green energy, preservation of knowledge, and showing up on natural infrastructure. Kadeen, what's your wish list? I'm not hearing you. Yes. Okay.
Sorry, I was on mute. I love the direction that this conversation is going in, and I +1 everything everyone has said. I don't want to add anything new to it, but I do want to comment from a tech point of view. Obviously, I work for a technology company. I work on climate change. I think there's a lot of new shiny things that we think about when we think tech. like we're reinventing the space, we want to do new things, we want to innovate. All of that is really true. But echoing what people were saying earlier, there is a lot of knowledge that already exists in the world, and there are reasons for it existing. Like respect our roots, go back to like indigenous practices. All of that are ways that we deal with climate change, and we prevent it from happening again. From a technology point of view, I think this is the age of data. There's a lot of things that we're doing. My point of view, when I work on building products at Google, for consumers or for governments or for nonprofits, is how do we enable people to do what they want to do and do what is best for them, but in the simplest way possible. The point of technology is not to necessarily do new things because it's new. The point of technology is to help people and help solve problems and make people's lives better, make the world better. So that's really like the challenge, the motivation, the exciting part of working in technology and climate change. How do we get back to first principles of how does the world run? How do we want the world to run? What is in the best interest of people? How do we make people's lives better? How do we make the earth better? Using all of this new technology and knowledge that we've acquired in the world. Like the industrial revolution, the industrial age was amazing. Like at some level, we needed fossil fuels to get where we are today. Now we know that is not the future. What is the future that we can imagine, and what is the role tech has to play in that? Using all of the things everybody on this call said, like how do we do farming better using technology by analyzing data? That's something Google is working on. There's a lot of stuff. Anything that you can work on, technology can enable. Technology shouldn't be driving you to do something. There are problems that we as people want to solve, and where can technology plug in?
Thank you so much. Thank you, Kadeen. I love that. Technology shouldn't be the driver. Really, it's these sustainability initiatives. And so, Shan, y'all can correct me if I'm wrong. So, Shan, you're the last one to give your wish list. So, can you take it away?
You have Sasha too. Sasha didn't give her wish list yet.
Sorry, thank you. I knew somebody had to correct me. Thank you, Shan.
You're welcome. But my wish list, it's long, but I'll give you my top 3. Boosting entrepreneurship in the waste management sector, supporting entrepreneurs, purchasing, allowing us to be able to purchase equipment and, utilize technology wherever possible. That's one. Setting up integrated solid waste management systems. A lot of the time, everything is very disjoint, and this one the left hand doesn't know what the right hand is doing. But an integrated system is what is going to take us to where we need to be. And of course, boosting our community education practices. Oftentimes, we either focus on individual silos, but not recognizing that the work can really be driven at the community level. So those are my top 3.
Wow, thank you very much, Shan. So concise. I think I see a Darwin in your future there. So Sasha, tell us what your wish list is for the Caribbean, with unlimited budget.
Sure, thanks. So in terms of that question, so I inherently have an issue with saying, if I had 50 billion, and what would I focus 1 or 2? What would my key priorities be? For climate change, there isn't a one-size-fits-all solution to that. And we've heard that from the different panelists. They focused on, agriculture, climate smart agriculture, on education, on waste management, on green energy, on technology, on ecosystem-based adaptation. So you're seeing this coming out here that you can't have just one solution. It has to be a suite of various solutions targeting different related issues caused by climate change or climate impacts. So that in itself, I don't agree with that question. However, what's coming up and what we're seeing here is the need for data. And one of the issues that the Caribbean has is the lack of data in all the different sectors. We need to have comprehensive, updated soil maps for the entire Caribbean to understand what are the suitable, agricultural practices we could engage in, what sorts of technology would be suitable. We need to have mapping, as Omar said, for ecosystem goods and services for the different countries, different ecosystems. This is coastal, riparian, wetlands, and so on, to determine that. We also need really robust data for like our weather and climate systems and information systems. That's what we need. We lack that, and it's never been up. Data collection analysis has never been a priority, and that has to be a priority. And it could be a mix of having proper national and regional data collect management system, data collection programs. We also have to look at citizen science as well. How can communities help to provide additional data, ground truthing, and so on as well, if it's for, rivers, monitoring river quality, and so forth as well. And it has to be, this is where this is where, the digital technologies could come into play. And in so doing, that's how you engage different communities, different stakeholders to really create a solution that is suitable and relevant for the country. So mine would be more data collection, and how do you integrate people and communities and governments with various digital technologies for that.
Thank you, Sasha, for that. Listen, comprehensive answer, and I love how you pushed back. No, it's not one or two. We need all. we need every single element that's involved in impacting climate change to be solved. And we need to work together. We got so many nuggets of wisdom here today, and it really reminds me of Kathleen Tyler's. Her presentation just a couple hours ago was on how to get into tech in a non-traditional way. And really, one of the key things she said was, whatever you come, if you were a bus driver before, if you were a teacher before, whatever it is that you were before, you come with your knowledge, and that is the strongest asset that you have, the knowledge you had before. Because again, the tech is the driver for whatever change that you are going to bring to the table. And similarly here today, I am so encouraged because it's really about the knowledge that we have. Dr. Ramprasad, that was so instrumental that you were saying the knowledge that we already have, and Kadeen re-emphasized it. And I think the listeners here today are encouraged that by this panel, by the presentations that went before, that we have the capability right here in the Caribbean. We have the knowledge. We need to push back. Sasha gave an example of it. Say no. Say we need more. We need an integrated solution. Let's get it done. So thank you very much. A round of applause to the panel. Thank you so much for spending your time with us and educating us, the public. And I look forward to initiatives. I'm seeing where Alpha's knowledge can combine with the systems that Dr. Ramprasad has in place, and maybe some tech at Google, I don't know, in terms of getting some kind of activity out of this. So I'm going to follow up with you all after this chat. Thank you very much. And I don't know if Maria is here.
Oh, I am most definitely here. Hi, everybody. Bye.
Maria.
Have a great one.
Hi, Maria.
Hi, Dr. Ramprasad. So thanks.
It was excellent. I thoroughly enjoyed this. Thank you.
Awesome. I hope we will talk again soon. And Sarah, you rocked this house. That was awesome.
Thank you.
We were all
that was pretty amazing. Sarah, listen, somebody said we need Sarah in our Zoom meetings because Sarah is efficient.
We need a Sarah emoji for whenever we need people to like, definitely stick
Wrap
with
it
it.
up, wrap it up, wrap
Yeah,
it up.
no.
But
That
congratulations, Sarah. That was an amazing conversation that you led expertly, might I add.
Yeah.
Knowing what questions to ask, who to ask, and when to ask, I think that was awesome. And you really led that panel into some really, really, there's so many gems. I'm like, somebody should be live tweeting this because there's just gems all over the place. So congratulations on that, Sarah.
Yeah, and
We had an amazing panel. Thank you for inviting me.
Oh, they were
Maria,
amazing.
thank you for believing in me.
yeah, I knew you. I mean, I've always encountered this very motivating. Whenever I've been in a room with Sarah, everybody is interested in the conversation, so it's great. So, how did your little friend go through the? Did he survive? Was he like following the
Yeah,
discussion?
he was like urging me on, you've got this, you've got this.
I love it. So, thanks so much, Sarah. I think you literally set a really high standard for the rest of our roundtables. And this is everything that the roundtable discussions are supposed to be about. Together, as the partners, Women in Tech Premier, Google Women Tech Makers, Google Developer Groups, and all of our regional STEAM partners, including Digital Jamaica. This was something that we wanted to do, which is connecting progress, intention, and action. So we have these progress roundtables that are going to be featured for at the end of every day for the next 4 days.
Yeah.
And each one is going to be great. I mean, Kadia, I just think I'm so excited to see how this is going to be unfolding over the next few days, because this was everything that we dreamed it could be. I think.
Yeah, we're 2 days in because we're pretty much at the end of day 2. We're 2 days in and we've had some really impactful but relatable conversation.
Yes.
Right? Impactful but relatable conversation. And if it's one thing I took away from the conversations today is what it reminded me of, Maria, is how connected we are in the Caribbean.
Yes.
We tend to forget because some of us over here, some of us over there, we're doing our own thing. But then when you hear the experts come in and talk about their projects and initiatives and what needs to happen, is in that last panel discussion we had so many different people from across different spectrums, and when you hear them talk, you're going, yeah, Jamaica needs that. Jamaica definitely. So you're reminded that we are all in this thing together. We're in the same region. We suffer from some of the same problems, and the wins can be all of us can win based on some of these solutions. The wins can also be something that we have in common and that we share. And that was my biggest takeaway from today, working together so we can all win, because we're all kind of facing the same kind of existential crisis, which is the climate change issue. And one solution from anywhere can really be impactful and can be a win for all of us.
Yes, I think my number one takeaway listening to every second of that panel, because it was also great, was the importance of data. And I do think data informed solutions, data informed practices, but also data informed strategy. That is really, we really need to put some. If I had the question, granted, I get why it's not a great climate change question. I would put all of my money into data science right now. Like I think that's where that's an area that's seriously underfunded. I think they work too hard to get their funding. You know what I mean? Like they should have a bank that just takes care of them, because that data is what's going to change the planet. So
I mean,
it was really great.
Yeah, the question Sarah asked was, if you had $50 billion, we need $50 billion, people. We need money, because we can talk all day in illustrious ways, using the most flourishing language about all the things that we can do and we can inspire, but ain't nothing happening if we ain't got no money.
Exactly.
And so we need, and I go back to, I think it was Alpha who said, let's talk. Yeah, plant more trees, less talking. And so we have a tendency in the Caribbean to have all these talk shops. We love a forum, we love a conference, we love to talk, we love to dress up and come and tell people how wonderful we are and all the things that we do. But then after that is done, then what?
Yes.
Right, we need money, we need the money. And I think that's the first step. How can we put the money, the resources behind these projects and initiatives to not just have them as pilot programs, because God knows we love a pilot program.
Yeah.
Not just have them as pilot programs, but actually push them, see them through, get them implemented. I would really start from literacy.
Yeah.
And hint, that's going to be my talk on Friday. I'm going to be
We're
talking
excited
about
for
digital
that.
literacy because I think even our governments need to have some kind of literacy education. Because Jano, have you ever heard some of them talk? You're like, okay, clearly you don't know what you're talking about. So I think literacy on all levels, from our government officials all the way down to our children, we need to have that conversation about literacy. Because literacy is not just, being able to use the computer. It's about, how do I as an individual, Maria, so we're talking about climate change, what can I do in my own little corner of the Caribbean to that can have a greater impact on Jamaica, because I'm in Jamaica. How do I find that information? Where do I find these resources? I have to be able to go online, find credible resources, get access to information, which is one of the biggest reasons why digital literacy is so important, access to information. And so I think that's probably where I would start, by implementing digital literacy programs into our schools, and to send some of these government officials back to school to get some training as well. First, say sometimes you hear them talking, you're going, whoops, whoa.
No,
Right? You don't have an expert on your team, clearly.
No, but I was actually at a PAHO consultation earlier, which is why I wasn't here today. But and at that consultation, which was about NCDs in global health and dealing with people, learning how to connect with people with lived experience, the number one takeaway from that was that those decision makers, those persons who are in charge of literally the design and implementation of the systems that control our lives, right? Very often those people are damaged. Those people have, problems that have, they have traumas, they have things that they're bringing into their decision making that has absolutely nothing to do with the problem at all.
They're biases.
Yeah, so a lot of that is what we're talking about here in the Caribbean, is some of the very tangible and intangible barriers to progress, right?
Yeah.
And we heard a lot about that today. Guys, we're getting ready to wrap up for you guys.
And just one thing quickly before we wrap up, I want you guys to also realize that everybody on our team today, for the most part, are Caribbean based or are from the Caribbean. And let me tell you why that is so important. Oftentimes, and I like to talk about Jamaica because that's where I am. Oftentimes, when we think about experts and who are the persons who can help us create these solutions, we tend to look outside of the Caribbean, outside of Jamaica. We tend to go to the United States or to England or anywhere where a lot of white people are. That's where we tend to go all the time, but the experts are here. We've trained them. They've gone to the UAs and the Northern Caribbean, and we have the school, we have the facilities, we have the ability to train these people. So now that we have expended the resources to train them, can we please use them? Because they're here. They are connected to the issues because it's also their issues, because they live here or they have family here. So it is easier for them to come up with solutions that make sense for us in the region. And that's why I love what Kadeen talked about. We're not having the technology lead the discussion, but looking at where the areas that we need help and how we can apply the technology. And that can only come if the person, I think, and call this a bias, I think that can only come from persons who are having the same experiences that we're having.
Yes, 100%. And I mean, that ties into, human-centered design, like you really have to look at the problem, not, from the bottom up, but from the top down. And the top part of it is the human experience. And I do think that, I'm so inspired by what took place in the Progress Roundtable. I really think that even if we were to bring maybe 30 more innovators and forward thinkers into a room, and we literally remove the boundaries, allow them to tackle these problems, it might be really great.
Yeah, for sure. So we want to thank Dr. Chris Ramprasad, Castelline Tillis, Mindy Mohammed, Dr. Letitia Addison, and Kevan Ramjaram, and our guests for that amazing Progress Roundtable, Kadeen Singh, Omar Mohammed, Sasha Jatang Singh, Xian Young, Alpha Senan, and again, Dr. Chris Ramprasad, and of course, our amazing host, Sarah Bernard. Thank you guys so much for being with us here. Thank you for the amazing contribution you have given to the summit this year. And we're looking forward to day 3. Maria, what are we going to be talking about tomorrow?
Tomorrow, we are going to be having our current trends in the creative industry day. So we have amazing panelists such as Amanda Span from Tech Beach Retreat. We also have Anya Youngchi, who's going to be talking about her amazing work in the metaverse, bringing digital fashion. It's just a very fantastic project that she's been delivering.
Oh, I'm looking forward to that one.
I know. We also have Anushka, who is hosting with you earlier. She's going to be talking about her work and her journey. And we also have a Progress Roundtable that's going to have Amanda Span, Anya Youngchi, Camille Selvon, who was our keynote speaker, and Kimberly DiMaggini from Caribart, which is an amazing website that features Caribbean art and distributes it online. And we're very much looking forward to hosting these amazing discussions tomorrow. So please tune in. We're very excited. And Kadia, it was awesome.
It was awesome, guys, and we will see you tomorrow. Thank you. I forgot to mention Anushka, who was riding with me in the beginning. Thanks, Anushka, and thanks, Maria. We'll see you guys tomorrow. Bye.
Bye.